But you gotta go through something to get to something, you know? Whatever that something is, yeah, we back locked in, let's go. Got it out the mud with the cards that was dealt. Cause I fear wasted life more than I fear death, yeah. That's why I never worry about a flight plan. Cause when you up, you never ask when the flight land. Southside of Shy still alive, so I beat the odds. Tempted by the devil, but made my peace with God. We beat that odds. The nights was cold, it was sheet to scar. That sleep was hard. Depression had me locked and see the bars. Faith and prayer helped me see the mar. Couple guys I had to take off on them. Shit's different when they tryna pull a take off on you. Rest in peace. Set the table for niggas and set my plate aside. So when you see me feeling mass, know that it's justified. When niggas get the buck and I get the pesticide. Jungle full of gorillas, who let the pests inside? No object formed against me shall be weaponized. That's why the guys pull up like an exercise and press the bench when they woofing from the sidelines.
Yeah. Long day now. Trying to find my way out. Life is such a precious thing.
So precious.
Hoping that she stay there.
Know what though?
Yeah. And we find a way. And we find.
Yes, we do. We definitely find a way. Thanks for everybody joining the show. I just put a tweet out really late. I should have put it out before. But we got an amazing show for you all today. I got an awesome lineup of guests. We're going to have a great and wonderful conversation about the future of gaming in terms of Xbox and PlayStation, how their financial situation currently is impacting or making decisions that the gaming community that supports their ecosystem might not like. Some might be cool with it, some might not. So as you pull up, as you come in, definitely hit the like button. Definitely share the stream out because it's going to be a great show. We have Game Over 30. We have Web Dave. We have my Chicago brother, Infinite Umbra. Then we also got my regular panel member, Mello, and Noah should be on his way. So as you guys hit the room, fill up the room, spread the word. This is going to be a very informal. I'm looking for this to be a very informal and very educational experience for myself, for the panel, and for you all. I know you guys be on Twitter and you see all these Twitter armchair financialists. They'll be saying this number and this number, but we're gonna get the tea today. We're gonna get the truth today on the financial outlook on Microsoft and Sony, and then we're gonna talk about how that will impact on the choices that's going on today that people have been arguing about. So as you come in, like I said, hit the like button. Let me see here. Give me just a second. I need to make sure I tweet this out. Let me see here.
All right, what up, people? What down? Make sure y'all hit the like button when y'all coming in. Share it, support. We're gonna get to it.
Yeah, I should have been
heavily promoted, but we didn't do it for a lot of promotion. But we did enough. And it's been a crazy week.
But while we getting started, I know this is going to be I think a first time for our audience. So I'm gonna start off with Game Over 30. Without getting too deep,
Sure.
too deep, let the audience know who you are, how you got into gaming, and what kind of games you enjoy and what you've been playing lately.
So I'll give you the try to cram all that into a reasonable soundbite, right?
Okay.
My educational background, I have an MBA from Penn State, and I'm a project manager in a large technical firm. I don't want to get too much into what I do, the details there. But I deal with a lot of the same project management and financials and stuff that you might typically see in these large project teams and such that we see in the video game industry. Even though I don't make video games myself, my corporate background lends my corporate background gives me a lot of insight into what actually goes on in these big, small, medium, large corporations, the financials behind them, that kind of stuff. Gaming, I've been gaming for pretty much as long as I can remember. I am over 30. In fact, I'm over the next the next big milestone there, actually. So I'm starting to get up there. Yeah, right.
Youngins.
Yeah, I know. Well, maybe here, maybe not elsewhere, but yeah, I mean, I started on the 8-bit Nintendo. In fact, actually, I started on the ColecoVision years ago. My brother actually had a ColecoVision, and then I transitioned into 8-bit Nintendo, and it's pretty much been almost every system, including Virtual Boy. Go figure.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I actually still have a working one. Believe it or not, it still turns on. It still gives you a headache too, by the way. That has never changed. But and today my primary systems, I probably my PC mostly, but I have my Xbox and I have my Sony games as well. So pretty much well-rounded.
Okay, awesome. My brother Webb Dave, Outbreak Gaming, man, how's it going?
Going great, man. Thank you so much for having me on, man. I'm excited to be here, excited to talk gaming, and let's get into it.
Yes, man. So what you been playing lately?
Oh gosh, a lot of Power World, a lot of
Power World, baby.
Okay.
Shout out to the Power World game.
Everybody playing Power.
Power World.
But me, it's like I'm the only one that hasn't played.
That's game of the generation right there, baby. Game of the generation.
And you can't find it on PlayStation.
Absolutely.
Oh, we kicking it off like that, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Salty all day.
Yes, sir. My brother Infinite Unbright, my Chicago brother, man. How's it going? What's been going on lately, and what you been playing lately?
Oh, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to link up with your post.
Yes.
Always appreciate hearing your voice as well. Shout out. And shout out to everybody in the chat. Been busy with a few things. I'm running my own podcast. I'm on Booms, and I got the Infinite podcast with Risk It and that Blue Number and Pete and everybody. So yeah, it's really good shows this past week rather with us. As far as what I have been playing, I had I did the Pal World thing already, Web Dave. So I already had enslaved some pals and
Pal World.
Yeah, I enslaved them already, Mello. I already did what I needed to do.
It's not enslaved. Stop it. It is called free unionized working.
Yeah. What? Free unionized working.
Free unionized working.
Listen.
That's the new words for the
thing. I played some of that, but I had moved on to Helldivers 2, which is pretty dope. Okay. Although the fact that you can't really, they had so many server issues, though, it's problematic. And I think it should have detracted from the score. I think overall, if you are only on, an online exclusive game, you have to be judged by that merit of how you handle online only.
That boy got sense there.
So
that's called education right there.
You going there? Don't go there. We gonna get there.
I had a feeling.
I like that.
Because we definitely need to talk about that. Mm-hmm. Specifically, one publisher refusing to score it until it got all the patches and workarounds out.
That's something.
We don't see that all too often. Shout out to my brother Adidas 20 with the $20. He said, "Let's go." Thank you for supporting the channel. We definitely appreciate it.
Adidas like the shoes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get some of those right now.
So I'm gonna definitely before we start the show, I'm definitely gonna do my due diligence and shout everybody out that's in the chat. Aaron Parliament, my brother 6200 Block Dre, Trey Mack was up, Anthony Barnett was good, DJ Berto Dose was good. Aaron, what's up? Snooky. Jackson, what's up? Always showing up. And one of the baddest bots in the land, my brother Mac City Entertainment.
Bow.
All right. We got Adidas 20 in the chat. We also got John Wolf. What's good, my brother? I got to get you on the platform as well. I'll connect with you in the DM. Black Lightning 100. What's up? Ghost in a Garage Gaming. One of the ponies, hardcore ponies, but he show up to every show supporting, and we really appreciate it. Jax 82. Steph, keep it G. What's up? Last Supremacy, who's always in the chat. James Thomas. We got Mishi Miyagi. I can't believe I pronounced that right on the first go around. Gorilla One, Texas. What's up? Thank you for everybody joining into the conversation. For those who's watching, who haven't joined the conversation, feel free at any time to join in. It's going to be a great show. Whether you agree with what we saying or not, as long as you involve yourself with the conversation and take more than what you came with when you leave here. You feel me? So we're about to get started. We're going to get the show on the road. We got 54 people watching. Please make sure you all hit the like button. Let me pull this up. I think I got this up already. What I want to start with, let me go to my bookmark because I bookmark. We're going to start off with Microsoft. And I want to, let me bring this over here. Close that out. Okay. Is that the right bookmark? Okay, here we go. All right. Let me do this here. All right. I'm going to put this up on screen. Hopefully you all can see it. Yep.
I'm the star of the show already. Jeez. I like it.
Yes. Oh, give me just a my lady will start calling as soon as the show starts. Hold on for just a second.
In the meanwhile, I'm going to take over the show and start singing. Anybody got some selections? Mello?
Oh man, I'm a 1990s alternative guy, so any of those will be fine.
I saw the sign.
Come on, man, sing some Blind Melon. Let's go.
What else do we have here?
You're like, who? What? Just kidding, man. Just kidding.
Rock Lobster.
Oh, too funny.
What's up with you, Dave? Hey, I forgot one game I forgot to mention, by the way, that I've been playing. I had started up the other day was Ghost Recon. What you call it, Breakpoint.
That's kind of funny. I actually started that up not too long ago as well.
Yeah, it's on sale right now. If anybody in the chat doesn't know about that, it's going for $8.99, I believe. It's actually pretty dope, and I think if you play with a squad, you'll enjoy it even more. Beautiful game too, by the way.
The previous one to that, Breakpoint, the
Wildlands.
Thank you. Yeah, both beautiful games, and honestly, probably better games now than they got credit for at the time because they kind of launched in a somewhat mixed state. But yeah, they're well enjoyable, military-esque titles now.
Yeah, 100%. Post, I believe, is back.
Okay. Thank you for that, Infinite. While I was going, man. Clutch. Okay, so we finna get the show started. Every time I hit the live button, everybody want to start calling. So I want to start off with the financial state of the industry right now. Microsoft came out and released a Q2 fiscal year 24 report, and I think that includes Activision Blizzard King. And they came out with some big numbers. So what I want to do is before we get into all that, game over 30. When you're looking at these reports, what are you looking for? If I want to be an investor or anything like that, and I'm looking at a Microsoft report, what am I looking to see? What are the areas that I'm looking at that I want to see growth in?
Well, from an investor perspective, and this is, I mean, obviously, I can't answer for, everybody out there, but from a general standpoint of what investors are looking for, investors generally look at how is the money turning into profit, right? So obviously a company has, it's relatively basic, right? You have revenue in, you take that revenue, you churn it into product or services, whatever you do with it. And so that's money out. And then what's left is your bottom line. Now, it gets a little mixed, when companies go into new endeavors, when they have, when a company's brand new or they're green or they have significant investments into new technology and such, there's obviously an allowance. Investors oftentimes will say like, oh, well, they're investing at this time. So, but on the back end, maybe their profit grows over time. In fact, we saw a lot of that in the late 2010s, early 2020s, where all these angel startups and stuff were all, people were investing heavily in them, even though they weren't making any money. Story for a different time. But I mean, in a general sense, if you're an investor, what you're looking for is how profitable is a company? Are they growing? Are they not growing? Are they flatlining? What are my dollars going towards essentially?
Okay.
That's the simple version.
Yeah, that's what we need. And looking at this is your breakdown. This is a tweet you did when you broke down Microsoft and ABK, and you said, "I'll be doing this in GAAP, not constant currency." Can you explain that?
Yeah. So, and this is something I like to touch on my Twitter all the time. Is that what GAAP is it's called a general accepted accounting principle. It's the way that the United States, and I think several other territories, govern how a publicly invested company must display its financials. So there are rules to that, right? There's ways that you account for inventory. There's ways that you account for revenue. There's ways that you account for like booking that you haven't realized yet. There's this complexity in GAAP that companies have to adhere to. And when I say I'm doing something in GAAP, I'm talking about the way that the money is presented at the very moment this report came out. So there's something called constant currency, and constant currency is the way that money changes over time. So what companies will say is, well, if we represent this number in constant currency, it might actually be a little bit higher or lower when you're talking about year over year or quarter over quarter, because the dollar was more valuable a year ago, right? Or inflation was a little less a year ago. So what they'll do is they'll also evaluate their numbers in constant currency. But to just keep things simple, and especially when I did this here, I didn't want to like re-represent every single number as another number. So I was saying, look, we're just doing this representation as Microsoft is reporting it in GAAP, general accepted accounting principles. I wasn't accounting for the slight deviation from these numbers in constant currency, which it's another level of complexity I don't think people want to get into.
Yeah, definitely. So one thing that always happens when when these reports come out is that, from a fanboy perspective, the console war side, you have these different gamers. They go on in Twitter and they're not looking for any positives or any pluses.
No,
they're looking for that negative number. Where is the minus? Where's the minus is? And when this report came out, people assumed that even though this counted for ABK, that Microsoft still lost $440 million.
Right.
Can you explain that? Because go ahead, because
I know exactly what you're getting. There was a big. I saw this all over. I think there was even a report from IGN that still has not been corrected today.
Wow.
And I don't. Maybe they have. To be fair, I haven't looked at it today, so maybe it has been corrected. But the big thing that made this quarter so complicated for Microsoft to report was that this was the first quarter, fiscal year 24 Q2 was the first quarter that had ABK's financials as part of Xbox Gaming's broader financials. And there was a specific slide in the slide deck that Microsoft released and I think I have a picture of it there, and I'm actually looking at it on my screen as well too. Actually, yeah, you have it right there, where they explain what is the net impact from absorbing Activision into our business. And what a lot of people did with this slide, and this was probably the thing that I guess, like, to be fair, irritated me the most about some of the analysis around this was just people looked at this slide and their eyes went straight down the page and they saw operating income loss of 440 million or whatever whatever that translates to. Yeah, it's 440 million.
Mhm.
And this got printed in people's tweets. This got put up by some of the the game's media sites.
Mhm.
Like Microsoft lost because the acquisition was so expensive, and it was. Like, let's be super clear about that the acquisition was costly for Microsoft. Most of it was paid for at the corporate level, and then there's a bunch of other accounting terms in there called like goodwill and intangibles and everything that we won't dive too far into.
Okay.
But in terms of what happened to Microsoft, Xbox Gaming, the division, people saw this number and they posted it up there and they said they lost $440 million because of the acquisition, right? That's not true.
Okay.
It's not true at all. What this slide is supposed to represent is what is the impact of this specific financial transaction to the total number of to the impact against more personal computing, which is the division that Xbox Gaming rolls up to, which is more personal computing. They're just saying, what was the impact of the Activision acquisition? And that was a negative $440 million because of primarily the accounting adjustments and transaction related costs to absorbing the company into Microsoft. What this number is not the revenue, or sorry, I should say the total bottom line, to put it simply, the profit. It's not the profit or loss of the Xbox Gaming division. It's just the impact of the ABK acquisition into gaming's bottom line, which everyone will probably say, well, Xbox doesn't reveal their profit margin specifically, right? So they are hiding something in there.
And that's exactly what they said.
It's like no matter how you try to explain this, the next big thing that you hear from people who are looking, because I don't go out personally looking for like negative messages, but for the folks that are, they're pushing this narrative that Xbox is, they're just hiding their financials in more personal computing, right? And that's also not true, because if you just do some really super basic calculations in more personal computing, they're a profitable division in Microsoft. I think they have around a 23 or 24% profit margin, and gaming is basically half of it. Just some simple napkin math demonstrates that there's absolutely almost no way for that division to be profitable if gaming was not profitable.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. And I just want to interject here because I see a lot of narratives, and we all do online, about Xbox and the gaming division, even getting into Game Pass, not being profitable, and Microsoft not making money. So what you just stated was that the gaming business is part of the personal computing business, and you're saying that gaming Xbox make up half of that division?
So let me just give you the numbers because I have them up on the screen right now.
Okay.
In the last quarter, more personal computing, which is the division that gaming rolls up into, their raw revenue was 16.8 billion. Okay. So just or about 16.9 billion dollars.
Okay.
Gaming is the primary, now because of ABK, gaming is the primary breadwinner, the primary revenue winner in more personal computing. And they come in, their revenue numbers came in at $7.1 billion. Wow. So it's about 40 some percent, right? And people are like, oh, how we still don't know, but Microsoft doesn't talk about gaming's, profit margin. So this still, they're just hiding it somewhere. But mathematically, that makes no sense.
Yeah.
If more personal computing, which does have a positive profit margin, which is, I think, around 24% or so, if you were to attempt to say gaming's, profit margin is negative, just the raw gaming division, the other divisions would have to work so amazingly hard and have such absurd margins that the number doesn't make any sense. So, like, what I was trying to explain in the post there was that gaming for Microsoft is clearly a profitable division. It's not really even a discussion point. The numbers are not lying, and it's just it's just the conversation around Microsoft's gaming numbers continue to be cloudy because of that.
Yeah, and that's why that's what one of the main reasons why I wanted you on here, because you're able to speak in ways that I can't, because I'm not educated in that area. And if I'm not educated in that, well, I'm gonna go find somebody who is, and that can break it down to not only myself, but the people who watch this show. And that's one of the main reasons why I wanted to get you on here, because you hear a lot of that every time Microsoft put out one of these reports, whether it's Game Pass not being profitable, whether they're not selling a lot of hardware. But I hear what you're saying here is that now that ABK is absorbed into Microsoft, that $440 million loss was due to them, the transition in the cost of transitioning them into the business. Not so much, oh, they got a loss from anywhere. It's just the money Microsoft spent to actually transition that whole company into the business, basically.
Correct. It's a transactional cost. It is not the bottom line of Microsoft Gaming. They're two different numbers.
Mm-hmm. Well, that when I listen to that, everything, nothing in life is free.
Nope.
Just because they spent $70-some billion on ABK, that the bug didn't stop there. They still had to spend more money. What is that, Mello?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I apologize.
I'm gonna mute you. Just because they spent $70-some billion on ABK, they still had to spend more money in terms of transitioning into the core. I want to reach out to the panel. Does anybody have any questions that for Game Over 30 before I keep going? Anybody have any financial questions or anything like that in terms of Xbox, Game Pass, or anything on the panel?
Nothing too specific, but I had seen it floated around that Microsoft allegedly made back the money already from the acquisition of ABK. How true do you think that is, 30?
Well, they spent, if you're talking raw dollars, it's going to take a while to pay that back. I mean, if you're saying, and that's not really how it's the acquisitions. And this is funny because this came up in the FTC case too. Like the FTC case was like, okay, well, you're just going to go out and purchase them, and then you have to pay that off. And then as Microsoft explained it, well, that's not really how acquisition math really works. Right. It's more like buying a house in terms of like the value and the way the financials hit. So answering that specific question is actually rather difficult, because the one thing that we don't know what Microsoft's payoff schedule is going to look like. We don't know we don't have 100% clarity of how they're tracking the financials. One of the big things with the acquisition is, and this is something to keep your eye on for the future. And this is kind of a little bit of a telltale sign of how well, say good or poor or whatever the acquisition is going. So in fact, you've actually, if you stop right there, you're actually on it.
Okay, awesome. I'm glad I'm moving the slides. That's in line with the conversation.
You're right. You're right where I want you to be, right here. Okay. Long story short, when it comes to something like GAAP, you have to take the value of your acquisition and you have to account for your acquisition somewhere. So you can see that Microsoft has accounted for the ABK acquisition primarily in what we call in financial terms goodwill and intangibles. Okay, and you'll see these come up with other publishers too. How you know things are not going well with the acquisition is that Microsoft will start rapidly paying down goodwill and intangibles because the company is no longer valued, to use that term loosely, at the rate that they paid for it. So if you do not see this paid down rapidly, or you do not see Microsoft say, like, I'm just making this up, I'm not saying this is going to happen, like, oh, we're going to take $10 billion out of goodwill for the ABK acquisition, then you can generally assume that things are going okay. Now, if they start rapidly paying down goodwill and intangibles, which is essentially the value of the ABK business unit, then you'll know they may be reevaluating their costs, their income and their outgoing costs, and they're saying, we can't really support this as value anymore. We've got to take money out of this. So I can't really answer the question now, but the thing to keep your eye on is keep your eye on the goodwill and intangibles that they have declared on their 10Q. And then that will give us a clue over time over whether Microsoft believes they are currently paying down their acquisition properly or not.
Okay. All right. So
now, didn't I was just going to jump
go
in.
ahead with that.
Sorry.
Go ahead with
Yeah,
that.
go ahead.
So didn't they actually? I mean, Microsoft purchased with cash on hand, meaning
They did.
that they didn't have to borrow anything
Correct.
against it. So basically, I mean, it's an easy way to look at it is like this is their cost of doing business, because if they had the cash on hand, the longer it sits there, the more taxes they owe on it and things like this. But this way, it's basically investing their cash on hand to grow the business exponentially. Is that basically easiest way to do it? Or
Yeah, it wasn't all. And somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but last time I checked, this wasn't all cash transaction. They basically purchased the stock. They just purchased the stock and they said, it's ours now.
Yep.
Right. It's ours now. So we own the business unit. And then basically in GAAP, you have to account for that. And this is essentially where they're accounting for it.
And something else that was kind of, I thought was kind of prevalent was that when they purchased ABK, that ABK had 12 billion cash on hand themselves that became Microsoft's cash on hand.
That's
so
a great
it's
point.
like, it's a win-win right away. They're already, that alone starts helping the recovery cost if they want to make it that way.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's actually a really good way to put it. They purchased it, but they also acquired anything that they had, whether it was cash on hand or the literal racks of servers somewhere.
Cool.
Okay. All right. And I know what you're talking about in terms of the FTC case. I think Phil explained it where when they made that comment about they're just going to buy him in the payback. He was like, well, it doesn't work like that. We're literally trading cash for an asset.
Right.
Yeah. And I remember when he was trying to break it down for the FTC and the lawyer. But they was pushing because I think that lawyer used to work for Sony, if I'm not mistaken. That's probably why they was trying to get Microsoft to, open up all their games and stuff. So, what's your future outlook on Xbox currently right now as they absorbed ABK? We seen the significant impact that it had on the gaming sector. We even can get into the 19,000 jobs that was lost during that transition. And I want to ask you, is that Microsoft kind of going in after really getting a look at the books, after the Tim Stewart or even Amy really getting there and digging in the numbers and see and really getting a look at how Activision was ran and was like, oh no, we got to do some cleaning up. And I think Phil alluded to that in that last podcast about they had to clean up some things that wasn't being ran right at Activision. Would you attribute those the 1,900 employees that lost their job to them just really getting a look at the books and saying, look, we have to clean things up?
Well, this is always a tricky conversation, especially with acquisitions, because undoubtedly, let's take the simple, not the simple, but let's take the stuff that would have occurred no matter what state of the industry right now. So, and people can look, I'm not, and I know a lot of people, obviously Twitter and other folks and other people in the media are very vocal about acquisitions and what happens to them and potential job loss and that kind of stuff. Right. I'm not here to make a judgment call on that stuff. I just want people to remember, I'm just explaining the numbers to you. So, I've been there too. Like I have been in the room when my company was in the middle of layoffs and I literally am waiting for a phone call by like 4 p.m. And if I haven't received a phone call, I still have a job. So I've been there. So when I go over these numbers, I just don't want people to take away it as being like, well, he's just calculating cold hard numbers and he doesn't understand what this is like. Like I know what
you heartless bastard.
I know, right?
I'm just kidding.
So outside of so first take the current state of the industry off the table. As soon as the acquisition happened, there was somewhere in those 1,900, I don't know what percent of it was, right? Somewhere in that 1,900, that major layoff that, Xbox gaming kind of experienced, Somewhere there's the duplication of effort layoffs, right? Which is like we already have a publishing team. We already have an HR team. We already have people who are IT server rack managers,
Help
right?
desk, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So something has to give, right?
Yeah.
Something has to give. And then the one thing I want to note about acquisitions that I think is very important to note is that, like in the business world, when we analyze acquisitions, like let's suppose you acquire a company and it's basically a break even, like you do the exact same business as that they did when they were separate. It's basically considered a failure, right?
Mm.
Because there was no point in the acquisition. So one of the first things that happens in acquisitions is you unfortunately lay off all of the duplicate roles. So somewhere in that 1900 is the duplicate roles. Beyond that, though, 1900 is a pretty significant number. So beyond that, what we have, at least in my view of this, and I've seen some people debate this or whatever, but in my view of this, Activision Blizzard, ABK, the entire company held off on doing the same thing that the rest of the industry which was cutting cost. They held off because they were in the middle of an acquisition, and that's actually
Yep.
very traditional when it comes to like long-term acquisitions like this. Is
Mhm.
that the company will hold off on doing any major financial impact to the business. They will hold
Okay.
off on it. They will say, we're not moving personnel around. We're not
Mhm.
creating new business units. We're not creating new spin-offs. We're not bringing up new partnerships. We're
Mhm.
just going to just keep doing business as usual, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to change your books in any significant manner during an acquisition, because that could really screw everything up. So what
Okay.
happened was Microsoft absorbed them. Now Microsoft has to go through with the planned layoffs that ABK would have taken up if they were an independent entity.
Ah. Okay. And that's probably why Phil said, hey, Bobby was gonna lay them people off anyway,
It,
whether we acquired them or
Or
not.
worse.
Or worse, because we've seen in the past with Bobby where
Mhm.
he'll hire a lot of people, and I was of the notion this, and this is just me, and I could get everyone's opinion on this. That I was kind of asking, did Bobby cook the books? And then in terms of, because we know he hired pretty much every studio that was working on Call of Duty.
Mhm.
Whenever he needed a Call of Duty to get out, he'll hire more people. As you can see, that he in a short period of time, I think over the last 4 or 5 years, they hired a tremendous amount of people. And I was wondering, did he cook the books? Did he overhire to get Call of Duty out? Because when you look at them Call of Duty numbers, everybody enticed about how much Call of Duty made in 24 hours, how much it sold, and things like that. Did he kind of cook the books on Microsoft to entice them to come over? And I think Microsoft would have brought them anyway. But I was trying to see, did he cook the books? And when Phil and them actually got in there, they like, this ain't, because I know prior to I was reading the story that they gave to the SEC on how the acquisition came about, and they had to be pretty much verbatim at how
Mhm.
everything went down. And I saw one point in that story where Phil and Sachi was trying to get Bobby. We want to look at the books. But Bobby kind of held off because he went to other A, B, and C entities that was. So I'm wondering when they really got a chance to really get in there and look at the books, that thing wasn't what it seemed from the outside looking in. That's what I was trying to ask, because I'm like, when I saw the 1900 get laid off, and I seen Phil saying, well, Activision wasn't being ran the way it was supposed to. Basic, you look at Blizzard and how things were being
Yeah.
managed over there. You had a game that been in development in 6 years that went from Unreal Engine to a mobile engine, and still needed 3 years, 3 more years in order for it to come out. So I'm wondering, is all of this from the layoffs, and even from the perspective of some of them looking at other platforms, was the books.
Well,
Mhm.
you have to look at when corporations combine, there's something
Mhm.
that what happens in the background. It's called due diligence.
Okay.
Due diligence is basically the acquiring company goes to the potential acquiree and they sign a bunch of paperwork. Everyone promises not to tell tell any external companies anything. And they basically look at their financials. They look
Mhm.
at their they look at their head count.
Mhm.
They look at the cash flows. They look at planned like income and outflows for like the next probably about a year or so.
Mhm.
I mean, the books are pretty much wide open during an acquisition. Like there's
Ah,
no
I know you
um
can't get that bound.
You
yeah,
really can't.
Okay.
no, and
Okay.
and that's a good thing though. Like
Mhm.
it's a
Yeah.
good thing that Mike, at ABK pretty much, because if something were to happen and there's a lot of fallout if a company finds out that another company wasn't truthful with them, there's like
Mhm.
penalties that apply and stuff. So there's like a whole thing. So you basically open up your books, you give it to the potential acquirer, and you say, "Here's what our stuff looks like right now." So what I think Microsoft ran into, and obviously I don't want to hog the entire
No,
conversation. I'll
you
just give
good.
you my 2 cents on
Yeah.
this. Like basically what I think Microsoft saw was that, and this is unfortunate. I'm not saying this is a good thing. Blizzard in particular, um, and the ramp up of the industry since like 2016, 17, they were over. It just I don't know how to put this, right?
Mhm.
It's just too many people doing too many things and your costs are just too high. If you look at the
Mhm.
games industry, and you can see this clearly on any games industry growth, employment growth graph that you look at, starting around 2017, you see this ramp up of
Mhm.
employment in the games industry. It's 1,000 here, it's 1,000 there, it's 300 here, it's 250 there. It was almost a meme for a while where you saw that veteran game developers start their own studio. I mean,
Mhm.
how many times have we seen that same article from basically 2017 through 2022? And
Mhm.
I kind of joke about how like everybody was hiring, everybody was making games. And then suddenly the whole entire industry comes to this, I wouldn't call it a brick wall,
Mhm.
but a soft wall. And we're like, we have too many people doing too many things. And
Mm.
with costs and continuing to go up, it's just not sustainable. Like
Okay.
the bottom has to come out somewhere. And unfortunately, I think in the ABK case, a lot of that bottom actually I think came out of Blizzard, and
Mhm.
some came out of Activision. A lot of it
Yeah.
came out of Blizzard, and then I think King. Well, King just prints money, so I don't know
Yeah.
how much
They
I've
didn't
looked
even
at them.
they ain't even been touched. You know,
No, okay, like just keep printing money.
they ain't even been touched. So I want to
Hmm.
open up the conversation to the entire panel because now we've looked at the financial aspect of Microsoft in a bit of a sense. And I want to try to correlate that to some of the business decisions that they've made recently. And I want to see how you all feel about that. It was leaked that, Microsoft was basically going third party. First, it started off with Hi-Fi Rush, then Sea of Thieves, then Grounded. Then it went on to Gears of War, Halo, Starfield, and the whole slate supposed to have been going multi-platform over to PlayStation and Nintendo. And I think it was leaked from the inside, and it disrupted a planned show that or town halls meeting that
Mm.
Microsoft was going to do in the spring, where they was going to break all of this down. Well, Nintendo just had a showcase where they announced Pentiment, Grounded, and Hi-Fi Rush going to the Nintendo Switch. Um, is and I want to ask this to everybody because when over 30 was breaking down the financial aspect of Xbox in the gaming division and it's pretty much thriving. Well, I wouldn't say thrive. He basically said they're profitable. Um, how do y'all feel about um these games, Pentiment, Hi-Fi Rush, Sea of Thieves, and Grounded going to PlayStation in a Nintendo Switch, and possibly other games when Microsoft just acquired ABK and they haven't really even got a chance to see the impact um how that's going to be over the next year or two. Call of Duty hasn't even hit Game Pass yet. So how do y'all feel about these 4 games? Because it could be more. It could be more. I think it's going to be more.
Can I,
But
can I take point on this?
go ahead. Go ahead.
What's up? Well, first of all, let me say what's up. How y'all feeling today?
We good. We good.
Doing well.
Awesome, awesome. Glad to hear that.
Hey, brother,
So
how
I,
are you?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. So here are my thoughts. So I had time to reflect. First I ain't like it. I didn't
Mhm.
like
Why is that?
it. It's not so much about the games being played elsewhere. It's more so about keeping the console itself relative. And is this a path to the console becoming irrelevant, and what happens to the games that I've purchased, from the Xbox 360 on till the Xbox Series X? That's what my mindset was, and it's still there. I mean, those questions still linger on, right?
Mhm.
But I will say this: I actually don't have a problem with those games being spread amongst other platforms, especially the live service games. If it means a bigger player base, and if it means those games having longer longevity,
Mhm.
then I'm definitely all for it. The only thing is, I need Microsoft to use that as negotiation. Let's get some of these games that aren't being announced and made available to Xbox. Let's use this as leverage to get those games on Xbox. Where's Final Fantasy VII remake? Where's Rebirth? Where's let's get Helldivers 2, right? We putting our games on PlayStation. Well, let's open up discussion. Let's get Helldivers 2 on Xbox, right?
Mm.
It should be a two-way street.
I think that's a big issue for the overall community about it only being the one-way street, and how you continuously have other third-party publishers skipping the platform. And I think that's pissing everybody off even more. Infinite, how you feel about the latest news coming out of Xbox and 4 first-party games, even though AA going to PlayStation and Switch?
Well, yeah, I mean, you know how we spoke on it. Like the thing about it is, for me, is, and somebody had said this to me. We were in a party on Xbox, and they said, "Do you think it's cope?" And they said that it sounded like cope to me, and they meant no offense. They said, "We're not specifically speaking to me, but it did apply to me."
Yeah.
And because when that first was announced, and we heard about the 4 games, or at least the 3 games at that point,
Mhm.
uh, we, I know I was like, no, Hi-Fi Rush, which I loved, by the way. I'm
Mhm.
like, they just got this game.
Just got it.
This game is only a year old, is highly well received.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It's a single player game,
Yeah.
and it's niche. It's not even going to do that well over there, I don't
Oh,
think.
no marketing. You
Right.
released it on your system with no marketing at that. You
None.
shadow drop it and didn't even market. Go ahead.
None. And that's probably why I did so well, because they didn't have time to hate on it.
Yeah.
But so they got that. Now to Gamer's point, yeah, gas titles live service, absolutely, that makes sense. So that was where I was standing at with it. Then they said Pentiment. I'm like, what is Pentiment going to do? No offense and much love to Josh Sawyer and the team, but that, I played that. Most people didn't play that, and I know most are not going to play that over on PlayStation side. So it's like, why is that even going, right? And then you got what was the other one? Grounded. Grounded makes sense. I can
Yeah.
see Grounded doing well on Nintendo, and specifically Nintendo, I would say,
Yeah.
more than anything else.
Yeah.
So the cope part was this. At first, I was like, I'm feeling a way about them bringing these games over, until we start hearing stuff like Indiana Jones and Starfield and Halo. And I was like, okay, take the 4 games.
Yeah. Yeah. Take the 4 games.
You can have them. Just don't do this to me. But my thing was, and I think a lot of people are still kind of in denial about this, is that some people were straightforward. People like Tom Warren specifically said this was considered. He didn't say, hey, this is happening right now. He said it's been considered, meaning that this is in discussions behind
That's
the
on the
scenes.
table.
Exactly. So I am not at ease yet. I think some have kind of saw the 4 games, were like, it's just those 4.
Yeah.
It's not just those 4. And that is where my problem kind of rises. And it goes back to your point about third party, because after a point, and we had this discussion the other day on the Infinite podcast and Thursday on my podcast on the Fix, is that after a minute, the problem then becomes what happens to the platform. Because if you're starting to bring all the games over to PlayStation or the competitor and into Nintendo,
Mhm.
at a point it's going to start to dilute the brand. And you can see the games that they even put over there. The Hi-Fi Rush, you see zero branding of Xbox on it. Not even a Microsoft mention, nothing until you maybe in the game and you'll see it pop up like Pentiment.
Yeah.
Pentiment will say Xbox Game Studios after you actually get in the game, and it's
In the game.
But other than that, you see nothing. So I feel like it's a dilution already.
I pointed that out because I remembered, and we all were excited the first time we heard about Major League Baseball coming to Xbox and the Switch, but specifically Xbox. But when you boot it up, that large PlayStation logo in that intro, and it gets to flipping around, and you see the X square, triangle, and circle, and then you see PlayStation Studios in a big emblem.
Unmissable. And it's got that MCU spin to it.
Exactly.
Yeah, Microsoft, it feels like either Sony had them kind of acquiesced by the way they couldn't show that, like, hey, we don't want this displayed, or Microsoft feels that way.
Can someone remind me of something? Doesn't Microsoft spin up the Xbox Game Studios logo on those, or do they not do that? It's been a while since I've played either of those.
You talking about like if it's on Xbox itself?
Yeah, Pentiment and Hi-Fi Rush. Does anyone remember? Did the Xbox Game Studio logo, does it spin up at the start? I just don't remember.
I believe it does.
It does, because people in the chat saying yes.
Okay.
People in the chat saying yes, and I definitely when Tom Warren brought it up, because I hadn't seen it, but I was at work and I was on break, and I had seen this tweet, and I'm like, no, I instantly remember booting up MLB, and that the strong PlayStation logo is right there. That's the first thing you see when you turn that game on. And people are like, well, it's just a logo. No, it's not just. Imagery is powerful, right? Logos and marketing is powerful. And every day when you're looking at TV or when you're walking around walking around downtown or wherever you at, something is being marketed towards you to make you want to buy something you might not even need, but it's enticing you to buy it. You're for the first time you have 4 games on your other platform, and you're in front of a huge installed base. I don't care if it's Grounded, Sea of Thieves, Pentiment. State your claim. Let it be known. This is us. This is us. This is Xbox. And if you want more of this, well, you know where to come. Don't be all sick of that little Xbox Game Studio logo that floats in and fades out. No. If Sony can do that on your system, you should be able to do that on their system.
Agreed. So just to go to a question, so Aaron said, do we think that the logo on PlayStation would make these ponies want to buy an Xbox? I don't know. No, I don't think it would, but at the same time, I'm a big person on doing unto others what they do unto you. You're not going to convince me that it's okay for PlayStation to put theirs on Xbox and shine that out real nice and say, hey, this is the one game you'll get from us.
Yeah, because it can be confusion. This is a PlayStation game.
Exactly. While on Xbox, we showing their games off, and it's nothing.
Yeah.
Not barely Bethesda mentioned. So I feel like if the point of them doing that is to say we're going to do this to draw more people into Game Pass and to Xbox, then they've already failed, because the casual gamer seeing this would have zero idea that this is an Xbox related IP.
Yep.
And not many people are going to touch Pentiment. So where would they ever be like, oh, this is Xbox? Okay.
Why y'all giving Pentiment that type of energy? it might do good on it, but I do want to move on to Web Dave. what was your perspective on this when you saw these 4 games released for PlayStation and Nintendo Switch?
I mean, obviously, Microsoft is a $3 trillion company,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm gonna maybe stupidly, I don't know, give them a little bit of trust that they know what they're doing.
Okay, that's a
Because
different.
I think that I mean, it's not Starfield, and people are going to say, "Well, not yet." I really don't think Starfield's ever coming, but we'll see.
Mhm.
We will find out in the long run.
Yeah.
There's a few things that they're doing to make it. I believe it's setting the stage for their further growth in acquisitions.
Mm-hmm.
If they can show that they are actually bringing some of their games that were exclusive to other formats, to other areas and devices,
I
that
like
is going to
this.
be a way for them to quash the argument. Excuse me, my dog's in the background. Quash the argument of why regulators would try and stop the deal,
I
because
like
we
where you're
know they're
going
not
with
done
this.
yet. They're not done yet. They're going to buy more, and the acquisitions aren't finished at all. And they've already stated, Phil stated that they want to get more into, the Japanese market, and the way for them to do that is to acquire at least one, if not more than one, Japanese developer, which would be either Square or Sega or both. Um, but especially Square is actually ripe for the picking. King said it the other night on his show, last night on his show, that
Mm-hmm.
that he would love that if they bought Square
Mm-hmm.
to continue to put their Square games on PlayStation,
PlayStation.
not make anything exclusive, but just own it and then be
And
able
get
to have it
access to that
everywhere.
catalog. Ah.
Exactly, access to the catalog for Game Pass, to make Game
Mm.
Pass the dominating factor in the long run. No matter how much we all want to console war this or fight that, the main goal, and Phil's even said it himself, Game Pass is the future. And Game Pass is going to be where they're going to make the most money and where it's going to be the most beneficial to us. Because if all these great games are included in Game Pass, they're not free, they're included in your price of your subscription.
Mhm.
That is where they're going to make the most money, and that's where it's going to benefit us. And in the long run, as hopefully this season, especially with the Call of Duty coming into Game Pass, I really believe that they're going to do an all out mega marketing blitz like they've
Mm.
never done before. That everybody's been, why aren't they advertising this? Why aren't they advertising this? When they have all their quote unquote ponies in a row, then they're going to be able to unleash the marketing beast that will set the new stage for gaming in the future. And I really believe that they are going to do that. This is my opinion.
I love that angle.
I like that. Like that.
I love that angle. Let me get these super chats real quick. Master 40 with the $2. Have a great show, post, and panel. We also got Master 40. He gives 1 membership. Thank you for the continued support, Master 40. You always showing up and supporting the channel. My brother Sycamore 007 with the $10. Once again, Sony has no reason to put or negotiate any of their games with the $3 trillion company. Microsoft is in no position to make demands out of Nintendo or Sony. Sony killing Xbox. Why save them?
Ooh, wrong.
Oh, okay, I'm gonna let you respond to that.
Well,
Man,
we got brother Takoki on our side right now.
Derek Jameson with the $2. When certain doors open, they never close. And I think that's in regards to it being more of Xbox IP going to PlayStation. Whether you want to respond to what Sycamore said?
I'm just saying it's there's just way too much doom and gloom, man. It's really I think in the long run, and I get it. People say, well, they said this, they said this, but then they did say that they were going to be a case by case basis. And when they look and they analyze the best, would you rather them said, okay, we're going to put these 4 games out there and one of them is Pentiment, or would you rather say, okay, we're going to put these 4 games out and one of them is Starfield? Which way would you rather have gone? You know what I'm saying? To start and to see how things react and to see what the market is. But I think in the long run, There's still going to be exclusives to the platform. They're going to do it. There's no way. They're not going to keep some games that are going to be exclusive to the Xbox ecosystem. Now, when they said Xbox Game Pass, where it exists, that's the key. So if for some reason Sony ever says, you know what, we'll let you have Game Pass on our system, which they never will do. But if that, then that's the only way I see that every game is going to do it. They're staple franchises, Halo, Starfield, things like that. They've already locked them down. They are not going to let those go. Now there are going to be some games coming out in the future that might, maybe, but that's okay because in the long run, it's about from being third place to first place. And I guarantee you, they have this roadmap that's at least 20 years long of how they're going to get there. Not only get there, but keep it there. My opinion.
I want to throw something in there that what you just said was something that I had wrote about not too long ago, that so many people looking at this situation right now are looking out 3 months ahead of them, 6 months ahead of them, a year ahead of them. Microsoft's big game changer, don't even like that term, but I'll use it for now, is that they did the one thing, at least in my opinion, that Nintendo and Sony are struggling in some way to offer because they're resistant to the idea. Microsoft said, how do we go from, like you said, how do we go from third to first, just using that loosely? We do the one thing that our competitors can't offer, and that's access. We expand access to games, and there's going to be a rocky road at first. There's going to be people who are resistant to the idea. There's going to be people who don't like the idea. There's going to be Sony's not going to like it. You know, some of our participants in our ecosystem aren't going to like it. But Microsoft's not saying they're not going to shut down a plan because a certain segment of their population doesn't like something now, or maybe even other business folks may even be resistant to the idea. They're looking out 10 years and saying, what does the video game industry look like in 5, 10, 15 years? And I can tell you from personal experience, watching my 2 young children in the house grow up, that if people think the video game world of today reflects the video game world of 5, 10, 15 years from now, they are very wrong about
You're
that.
very wrong.
You know what?
I agree.
I've talked about that. Matter of fact, it was about 5 or 6 years ago when I made pretty much the same argument. And I said, when you're dealing with corporations, they're not paying these Harvard or Yale students all of this money to scope in months, right? They're looking 10 to 15 and maybe 20 years down the line, and they doing the trajectory. And their main job is to stay ahead of a curve, right? Their main job is to be ready before the change even occur. Because when the change occur, it'll be too late if you're trying to make your change when you're already too late. And I think Microsoft done that in the past. You look at the iPod, you look at the cell phone, you look at Steve Ballmer on his outlook for the iPhone, how he was wrong about that. So many opportunities Microsoft had, even from the digital store, starting off with Xbox Live Arcade. They was one of the first ones with that type of store. So now, and then also you got to look at the consumer aspect of Microsoft. Microsoft has always been a great in corporate company when it comes to the enterprise side of things.
Right.
But when it came to consumer products, they didn't really do so well. And they have one product right now, which is in the game industry, which is the Xbox, that give them that consumer product they need to get access to the living room and things like that. And they have to do what's in the best interest of their product. Now, where they made a good point, I didn't even realize that from the regulator standpoint, to say, hey, look, we'll sprinkle a few things because we know all 3 regulators brought that up. Try to use ZeniMax deal against them in terms of taking them games off other consoles. So I didn't even think about saying, look, let's spread a few things around. It ain't got to be heavy IP, even though I think at some point we might see some heavy IP, and I don't know how the community is going to feel about it. But let's sprinkle some things around because we've all, from a restaurant standpoint, we got a lot of the restaurant studios. We have pretty much all the big time first person shooters. We pretty much got the restaurant RPG landscape on the lock. Now we need to go get a big Japanese publisher, and that could be Square Enix or Sega. Sega aligned with them well in terms of PC, console, and mobile. And Square Enix is really, really vulnerable right now, even though they choose to make their games, continue to make their games exclusive.
Yeah, that's a story in and of itself, isn't it?
Yeah. And we might have to, I might have to get you back on to talk about that because I really don't understand that, but I do want to move on to my brother Mello. Mello, how you feel about these 4 games and Microsoft kind of, I wouldn't say opening the door, but cracking the door to bring in some of their games to other platforms?
Oh, okay. See how I wanted political. I'm finna just go straight hood with the shit. I didn't give a fuck.
Oh wow.
Straight to the point. The problem that I have with the whole dialogue in the situation currently right now, because I told you this before when we was watching the game shows and we mentioned this, and I said, kind of like during the ABK deal, I was like, the problem is going to be, for me personally, how do you drop these games without cannibalizing your other games or your AA games or your indie games that you're going to bring out on the platform with all these AAA games that you have now currently? And they came out with a slight plan with we're going to bring out 4 AAA games during a year cycle, and then we're going to sprinkle out the rest of them during the
you talking about the
rest of the months.
One big Xbox game per quarter?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I already knew off rip, it was like, okay, you got all these developers, they got games in process. We talking about Fable, State of Decay 3, Perfect Dark. We got games on top of games on top of games. And the rollout was going to be kind of steep. So when they came with this ideal or this situation with these 4 games, my concern was, and still is to this day, because Phil did say it, any device or platform that's willing to accept Game Pass, our games will be there. And right now, what you see in Hi-Fi Rush being sent over to the third party companies, your marketing and what you said it seems untruthful. It seems like you lied right now currently. Now I don't know personally how the deal was prior. Like, was these games already set and had a PS5 port for it, and then y'all just rolling it out because it was what was in y'all contractual deal with the developers? I don't know personally, but as of right now, what you presented is flip-flopping. You said one thing, and now y'all doing a totally different situation. When it comes to the marketing of Microsoft Studios with the games and stuff, I see what y'all talking about. I understand it. This is another thing that I said that they had an issue with is marketing, because case in point, Dead Island 2 just dropped in Game Pass. Random as fuck. Did not know. Nothing on my home screen said, hey, get ready for Dead Island 2 to release on blah 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 day. Nothing happened whatsoever. It just randomly dropped. Manhattan told me, hey, go download Dead Island 2. They have a marketing issue massively. Me personally, I kind of correct myself because I did see on YouTube that they have an Xbox Daily or Xbox Direct, something like that, where they was showing the game rollout, but apparently a lot of people don't watch it, because me, I didn't see the shit. As for the future titles, I'm trying to cut it short. As for the future titles that's possibly going to come, long story short, I wished all you motherfuckers learned the lesson. Stop putting all your eggs in one basket with these so-called insiders and motherfuckers that know everything in the dark alleys that's going on with these developers. They don't know shit. I'm sorry to tell you, it just is what it is. How everybody ran out and reacted towards this news, you motherfuckers should be embarrassed, especially you being a grown as adult acting like this. It's kind of sad because not only did you tarnish what Microsoft is doing with the brand, you made it seem as if it was just like a doom and gloom situation for gaming in general. And you guys, not you in particular, but the ones that was doing it, y'all say y'all love gaming so much, but you showed that you really want Microsoft to be done for in gaming. And I don't see how the fuck can you want that when Microsoft is actually the number one developers right now that's pushing the gaming community forward when it comes to content, when it comes to the future direction of where gaming is going. Microsoft is always in the forefront taking the arrows while Sony sit back and had their fucking hands. The shit is sad, and then they turn around and do the same thing that Microsoft does later on, and then everything is like, oh, it's just peaches and cream. Everybody's cool with it. So that's all I had to say.
All right. Let me get the super chats. Anonymous Boss with the $5. He said, hit up Z for a conversation, speaking code and abbreviations. Head doctors got the feds watching. 100. Salute everyone here. Ponies down bad. Port begging for Halo. And then Gen X 128 with the $5. I am going to be honest. I don't believe them anymore. I think we are back to Halo, Gears, and Forza. We will be the time exclusive machine. Shake my head. Hey, gaming. What's your perspective on seeing Microsoft release their games on PlayStation and Nintendo? Do you have any type of feeling towards that? I know you kind of remain neutral in the aspect of the financial stuff. That's the same way for gaming as well.
I mean, I have my own. I don't wear my business hat all the time.
Okay.
I do take it off from time to time. I shock people.
I don't want to put you in a box.
Shock people every once in a while. They're like, wait a minute, he's not just looking at numbers. What the hell's going on here?
Exactly.
I guess I kind of, and I'm not making this up when I say this, like years ago, I used to just BS with my friends and stuff about like a more ubiquitous kind of video game environment where more games were available, like almost think about it like standardized consoles, almost like a PC essentially. And that I had suspected for a long time that the industry, and it's all in the numbers, right? It's all in the, like, if you look at the game industry in like the 2000s and 2010s and the 2020s, there is a clear trend line of broader games, third-party games, broader games going to more systems and more players and more people. That's just an unavoidable fact of the video game industry. We have gone from basically in the 1980s and 1990s where like the consoles had specific games and experiences on them to an environment where those experiences and those games are spread out much more around the environment, whether that be PC or PlayStation and Xbox. Nintendo has always had kind of their own little, world that they live in, and that's okay. And there's financial reasons for that, which some other time I can go into and explain. But Nintendo kind of empowers their own little world, and they have good financial reasons for doing that, especially with the structure of their company. But the unavoidable fact about the industry is that it is trending in a certain direction. There's just it's like a gravitational pull. There's absolutely no avoiding it. Now, when it comes to like the 4 games that Microsoft chose and everything, I think it's reasonable. I think a lot of them where essentially and I'm not talking negative about Microsoft when I say this, but I think they've kind of run their course in terms of like revenue and player count and all that kind of stuff, right? And so Microsoft is looking at them and they're saying, hey, like, what can we do with these? They should be relatively easy to turn around in terms of development cost. What can we do with these? This including like, I know like the joke is like, well, who's actually playing Pentiment, right? Like, I mean, even so, if its development cost is so minimal to flip it and put it on another system, and it's basically, it's a positive ROI, you're probably going to pick it out, especially because it's not going to be something that it's not a Starfield, it's not a I hate to use this term, but it's not a console seller, right? No one's buying consoles for Pentiment, right? So you flip it, you put it somewhere else. You do the same thing with Sea of Thieves, which has been out there forever. I'm very happy, so to speak, with Microsoft's plan, because from my perspective, what I see is the inevitable gravitational pull of where the games industry is heading. But at the same time, and a lot of people will debate me on this, but this is something that I feel very strongly about. I often see that, well, what's Microsoft getting back for this? Well, first off, they're getting revenue. They're getting revenue back from this, right? And they can in turn use that to strengthen their own ecosystem, whether that is with timed exclusives or more or additional titles or whatever it may be within the ecosystem itself, or to put more titles on Game Pass, right? Which would only be, Xbox and, the Xbox environment, Xbox platform first. So it really didn't bother me, especially after after it came down that like all the leakers and rumor mill creators were essentially wrong. I remember I had to laugh a little bit because I'm sitting at my computer and I remember the one list that was flying around Twitter that was like 15 games long, right? It had like Gears of War, right? And it had
the
Halo
whole slate,
Infinite.
the whole slate.
Yeah, they're like, everything is going to be announced. It's all moving. And I was like, no, it's not. No, it's not. This is so dumb. I'm like, this is so dumb. Like, we have gone full stupid on this. Like, and it ended up being these 4 titles. Now I know some people aren't taking it too well, but I mean, look, this is I don't know how else to tell people. Like, this is the reality of the games industry right now. And if it's like, if you don't like it, you don't like it. That's fine. Everyone has their own opinion. But for me personally, I'm totally okay with it.
Okay. I look at it like this. Initially I was against it, like my brother Noah, because I didn't know which 4 games it was going to be. And I was receiving a lot, and continue to receive a lot of information behind the scenes about certain games that's going, and this is just the beginning. When I look at Sea of Thieves and I look at Grounded, I put them in the same aspect that they can, not saying that they would achieve that level of success, but I would try to put them in the same aspect of what Microsoft did with Minecraft. If you look at games like Roblox and Minecraft, I think Grounded can find some type of place in that lane. I think Sea of Thieves can be what Minecraft is, what Sea of Thieves is for the pirate genre, which is something different. And I think Microsoft with Sea of Thieves got a head start on a lot of publishers, because now you see Skull and Bones and games like that that's trying to make their own version of Sea of Thieves or whatever. But I think Microsoft has a chance by spreading Sea of Thieves around, because like you said, in gaming, I do think they hit a ceiling, a growth spurt ceiling across PC and in the Xbox in terms of Sea of Thieves. And I think by adding it to PlayStation and Switch, you can kind of break the ceiling on that and see how further you can push those titles. Pentiment, I haven't played the game, so I really don't care. Most people downplay Pentiment, as we've seen on this panel today with Infinite and others. And then Hi-Fi Rush. I was a little fickle about Hi-Fi Rush, because I think Hi-Fi Rush, even though it was a smaller title, I think for what it was, that it was still a huge title for Xbox, because people never expected an Xbox studio to make a game like that. I remember PlayStation and Nintendo Switch gamers telling us that was a PlayStation game. That game don't deserve to be on Xbox. That game should have been for the Switch, not the Xbox. Y'all don't appreciate games like that. Y'all don't appreciate titles like that. And so I think from an exclusive standpoint, I would have loved to see that. But I understand, I can see the business side of that as well. That, hey, it's a small title. We probably didn't invest that much in it. But if we had spread this across PlayStation and Nintendo, and we've seen people from that community asking for that title, then we can get a bigger return on our investment than what we actually put into the title. And then I think this gives Microsoft, from an analytical perspective, time to see what some of their titles are doing other people ecosystems. PlayStation and Switch. They need the numbers. They need the data. Similar to how they spent the 10 years in the 360 generation taking all that digital data, right?
Yeah.
Taking all that digital data for them. And that's why the Xbox One was built the way it was, because they took that 10-year worth of digital data, even though they fumbled the ball, on it, they still utilize that 10 years worth of data. So we just got to figure out where they're going to go with this after they see what kind of player base they can grow on the Nintendo Switch in PlayStation community. We'll have to see, and we can only hope that it don't go to big titles like Starfield and Halo multiplayer and
True,
things like
true.
that. Yeah, but the landscape, the business landscape of the gaming industry has changed so much. We'll see. We'll see.
I can't wait to see what these review scores gonna look like though on these other on these on Nintendo and PlayStation.
Hey, said
Yeah,
hey, we waiting. We
we
waiting
wait.
because we know it's gonna be something different. I guarantee you, Hi-Fi Rush score higher on PlayStation than it does on Xbox. I
Could
guarantee
you
you Intimate do too.
could you imagine all the complaints of
Absolutely.
Starfield becoming strong points when they if the game were to release on PlayStation? And when they review the game on PlayStation, I love the loader screens. It gives me a moment to just take a breather and and appreciate
To
the
bask in
atmosphere that Starfield
The simplified
provides.
travel is just amazing, and it's
Hey, are they gonna use that revolutionary SSD?
yeah.
when I'm in this limited space around Earth and other planets, it allows me the moment to really take in the
Yeah.
awe of this universe only on PlayStation.
10 out of 10.
Yeah, but I guarantee you, even Pentiment might score higher on PlayStation
For real.
than it
With
do
the
on
haptic
Xbox.
feedback as I'm typing, as the words are being printed across the screen, I can feel the
Definitely.
sensation of the letter, each letter.
I'm looking
Thank you.
forward. I'm looking forward to the Digital Foundry analysis of Pentiment on Xbox Series X versus PlayStation 5 as they zoom in on every single
Every
pixel.
pixel.
Right?
Yeah.
They already talking about it's 120 frames per second on PlayStation and only 60 frames on Xbox.
Oh, it dipped right here. It dipped right here.
Bro, just to
50.
select the words. That's the
But
crazy
that
part.
leads into another conversation I want to have with you all before we move on to one of the next topics I have, and that is the narrative right now. Now that Xbox has put 4 of their first party games on PlayStation, all I'm seeing with the media is, yeah, share. It's good to share and put things everywhere. Every gamer should be able to play anywhere they want with it. But Sony just. But when it comes to Sony, okay, so you want Microsoft to put their games everywhere, but you praise Sony for having exclusives. I don't get that. And if you're saying, and now that Microsoft is putting their games everywhere, and you have this mindset that everybody should be able to play every game on whatever system they want, then why y'all aren't saying anything about Final Fantasy remake, Rebirth? Why y'all not saying anything about the 2 games? What's that? Monster Hunter and the other game that just got announced exclusively for PlayStation, Nintendo Switch, and PC, and excluded Xbox. So why, when it comes to Xbox, it's kumbaya and it's we love this approach. Yeah, just put it everywhere, Microsoft. Just sprinkle it everywhere. But then when these other games come out and they exclude Xbox, ain't nobody saying nothing. And then y'all praising Sony for being able to lock down these IPs. I don't get it. Am I the only one that's
No,
saying
you're
this?
not. You're not the only one, and that's part of the problem. That's why I'm saying, like, the slippery slope thing that people are talking about, and the part of the problem is it devalues the brand to the point where our third party is going to continuously skip them. You've all seen these newer games that's coming out. This has been going on for years, by the way.
Yeah.
But it's an ongoing thing where these third parties already see little value, and what are they going to think further once bigger titles start heading over to PlayStation? That's part of the issue if that does happen, right? So I think I think this is kind of one of those Pandora things they opened up. They're gonna have to. It's gonna be impossible to close back. And it was mentioned earlier, Web Dave, the theory of this was done for the FTC to satiate them, if you will. I've heard that before. That was mentioned even the other day on Boom's podcast when I think the lunch break special. I'm not sure which one it was, but that theory, it does make some sense, right? But then you would have to think that FTC, they were very specific in some of the titles they named. They named big titles. These titles are very niche. They're looking at the big fish. They want to see the Elder Scrolls. They want to see the Starfields over there. So I don't think these four would necessarily make them feel like, okay, that's enough for them. By the way, Microsoft already beat the FTC. I don't think
Yeah,
they need to do
but this we're
else.
talking about future acquisitions, and it is also it is something they can point to, just to be clear, and for further acquisitions.
Yeah, but see, even still, that doesn't stop anything for them, because even future acquisitions, a matter of that is, as long as it's not a horizontal, from my understanding, is fine. As long as they're not doing a vertical, I guess. Which one is that though? Is it horizontal?
Verticals are traditionally in the United States are traditionally given a lot more leeway than
There you go.
horizontals.
So horizontal will be them buying PlayStation, for instance, right? So they can't do that. But as long as they're buying certain smaller studios, I don't think they're going to buy any bigger platform. I mean, excuse me, bigger platformer, if you will, like ABK anymore. Like some people were like, oh, they're going to get a Rockstar. I don't think they're going to do anything like that, or 2K or whatever. I think they'll stick to smaller publishers going forward, possibly even the people who made Power World. Web Dave.
I was just about to say that.
I can see that, and I don't think they'll be hindered by that. I think they've won this case with one of the biggest, publishers out there in ABK. I don't think anything's going to stop them from getting smaller ones after that. So I don't know if that's the truth or not, but it could be. I can't write it off either, so I'm not trying to dismiss it. I'm just saying I don't know if that is the case. But yeah, part of the problem is, again, it's a few things. One is the messaging. Microsoft is kind of bad at that, and it leaves us at too much ambiguity, where we kind of feel like, all right, what's your plan here? Where are you going with this?
Yeah.
Right. And that's part of the issue I have now. I know a lot of people get real antsy. Oh, don't dare question them. Just accept it and don't be
what they don't.
They got it. Like, no, listen, it's all right for us to question them. And the reason why is because they've shown us we have to question them. You can no longer just take them at their word. You have to take them at their actions. And their actions have been different from what their words were. And that's not doom and gloom. That's just realism. So I'm not worried about it anymore. I'm past that point. I'm at acceptance. I get it. It is what it is for me. I've made my bed. I've made it, and I'm laying in it. I'm Xbox all the way to the end, right? But my whole point of it is realism matters, and I think we have to be real with each other and not try to sugarcoat things. Some of these things that have happened, and these guys who have pointed out what they pointed out, they have actual contacts and people there that they know.
Yeah.
Now, some might have put their foot in their mouths in certain different ways, but those things were considered. And I think, like you mentioned way earlier, Post, that I think a lot of this that got out to us and the reaction from the community made them tuck tail a little bit and change plans. I believe that. I really believe that.
They did.
And push things back for sure.
He said it in the podcast. He was like, we had something planned, but we had to, change course. And my question was that, okay, if you had something planned for the spring, and Nintendo, Treehouse event was this week, you mean you was going to announce these 4 titles out of the blue with no type of discussion or no type of information given to the community, and then you would have still had to wait all the way to the spring? Yeah, go ahead with that.
So what if the reason they bumped it up was because of the Treehouse announcement, what they just did, instead of all these rumors circulating around that they didn't really have to answer to anybody? That's what I believe is why they made a change and announced it sooner. Was not because of the rumors and bull crap that were going around. It was actually because Nintendo wanted to go ahead and make this announcement and wanted them to be a part of it.
I doubt
but
it.
that's just me.
I'll doubt
Well,
that. You know, I'll tell you why I doubt it.
Right ahead.
I'll tell you why I doubt it. Because
Discussion.
one, if that was the case, then why was it also on PlayStation already announced? If you're going to announce it for that, then why is PlayStation also being announced? So it couldn't just be, oh, well, Nintendo wanted to get it out now. No, this is already planned. They're not going to change plans for Nintendo to do it. But also, too,
No,
remember,
just stepping up the game. And why not go ahead and announce PlayStation if you're going to announce your Nintendo one also?
well, you can see, okay, look at the body language. This just common
Body
sense
language.
thing. Let's look at the
Okay,
common
sorry,
sense.
I'm not qualified for that.
Let's look at the common sense.
Here we go.
Let's look at
I'm
the
about to
common
say
sense.
body language.
I'm gonna give y'all common sense because I think some people kind of just.
I'm
I
with
think some people kind of
Dave. How
close
you
their
know
eyes.
body language?
So y'all telling me, I'm gonna ask y'all this question.
Okay,
You're
here
telling
we
me when
go.
you saw Phil, you remember that time he appeared on the podcast with Paris and them. What was the name? Kind of funny, right?
Yeah.
Y'all remember that after Red?
He was angry.
What was
I
the body?
remember it. I remember
What was
it.
that body language telling y'all?
He was mad.
Yeah. So y'all telling me y'all can't read that, huh?
He was mad about
probably-
what exactly?
He was
mean,
mad
80% of
because
communication is
of
body
the
language.
failure. I'm just telling you the point of it is you can read body language. Y'all like,
Yeah.
what body language? You can read that? Yeah, you can read that. Come on now.
But my saying is, in this current one, I didn't see any body language
Right.
that said anything in the new
did.
one. Okay, cool. Well,
absolutely did.
There was
good
some
on
body
you.
language
It
information.
was absolutely some body
It
language.
was a lot of body language.
Yeah.
Sarah Bomb was holding it together. She had a
Y'all
little.
some gurus then.
Y'all
I
didn't
ain't-
see that?
I ain't see all this extra y'all
Okay.
talking about. Y'all
Now,
some
Oh,
gurus.
come on now.
Come on. Y'all ain't
Hey,
we
bro.
commute 80% of
Outside of how he approached the interview, because it was kind of like, all right, we just finna go ahead and cut the chase and get straight to it because of the rumors. I seen that more irritating.
And when you ever see Phil talk like that?
it was again, it was
Never.
because of the rumors. Because
No,
it's like, okay,
not,
now I
it's not
gotta.
just the rumors though, Mello. Like when you ever see him, it's been rumors all the time for Xbox, and a lot of times negative. Phil ain't never
this
been
was
like
was
that.
kind of a little bit more
Microsoft-
louder than the other ones, to be honest.
Microsoft always
When
had
you-
a statement that they don't comment on rumors.
No, I'm just saying in the sense of when you seen how heavy everybody was talking, Nick, the list, everybody's saying, oh, you're going to get Gears and Halo Infinite's going to PlayStation, like that, how heavy that was, and oh, we're going third party. I think it was more so direct, like, all right, let's once again have to handle this and speak on that. And
Now-
like he said before, he said it in the interview. We didn't want to interrupt how the developers and the company wanted to present those games on
That was
their
just for
own
the 4
terms.
games being announced. That didn't have
For those
anything else to
4.
do with anything else.
Yeah, that's
So you
it's
agree
for
with
those 4.
Infinite? So you're agreeing with Infinite, right, Mello? That it was more so
it wasn't
the.
no body language like he was upset.
No, I'm
like,
talking about on
I didn't say
why.
he was mad. I was saying that he was clearly showing that he was agitated. That's my point. So going beyond that, let's just make it even clearer then, because I'll go further.
I read
no, I'm not saying he was
I
mad.
agree with that part.
Agitated.
Agitated that I have to report on the rumors. Yeah, I can see that part.
So
Yeah,
I'll go
yeah,
further. I'll go further. Their plans was to show this in the spring, right? That's allegedly the spring, right? That's what we're hearing. They had to push this up. So if that's the case, you all think that they were going to announce these games way later for Nintendo and PlayStation, or they were going to allow PlayStation and Nintendo to announce it that Thursday? Because remember, Nintendo was supposed to have that third party direct on the day when Microsoft showed this podcast.
Yeah,
Me personally,
Nintendo was going to announce it either way.
Depending on the developers, I think it was on the developers aspect.
I think that Nintendo was going to announce it either way.
Oh yeah, that's my point. So that means they would have showed that, they would have showcased that to us before Microsoft even had a chance to tell us and break the news. You see what I mean?
Well,
Yeah.
we're I don't know if it's 100% certain though. We wouldn't have at least got like an Xbox. Like Xbox does a lot of things by their blog, their Xbox Wire blog and releases. So
yeah.
if let's pretend the BS on Twitter and Reddit never freaking happened. I suspect that if Nintendo, let's pretend the Nintendo Direct was still scheduled when it was. I'm assuming because Microsoft has at least been pretty good about this, that we would have seen some type of like, hey, announcing today, you're going to see the Nintendo Direct. And by the way, these 2 studios are announcing that they're releasing games on. I think we would have seen something. I think what forced their hand a little bit was the noise got so much that they actually had to take a look at it and say investors are just spoiler alert. When a company thinks investors are now going to see something and think it could affect the bottom line, that's when things change.
So
certainly. Certainly. Now I'll add one more wrinkle.
Yeah.
Now remember, and this is how you know that money talks, bullshit walks. When they had this whole talking Phil, when the whole world was burning for Xbox, what did Phil come out and say? We hear you, and we'll address you next week
at a business
update.
Mhm.
If this thing was a nothing burger, they would have squashed it right then and there.
Right? And what got me
Right
he
then
said
and
it was
there,
a
they would have said,
business
"This is not
update.
true. Don't believe all of this." Blah blah blah.
Exactly.
They said, "We'll tell you next week," leaving for more world burning.
Yeah.
So
And then,
that tells me some adjustment went on right there.
Yeah, because usually I've seen Phil Spencer come out in a tweet and address things, or small rumors that didn't get as big as this. Just come out in a simple tweet and say, "Hey, that's well," or 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 one of the reporters like Tom Warren to say, "I've reached out to Microsoft. They said this is not happening." In this case, he said a business meeting, not a gaming meeting, not a. We're gonna have a business meeting because these changes is not just about gaming, it's about the business of Xbox. And like gaming said, when the investors, because that pot was boiling over.
I mean,
Pot,
it got too big. It got too big. Like it was just feeding itself, right? Yeah, right. And it was like somebody's got to say something. You can't be if it's not you can't. I mean, you can't deny something that isn't a total denial. That would be you can't lie to Wall Street. So Phil Spencer isn't going to say something on Twitter like, "Hey, this isn't true," and then a week later be like, "Okay, so here's what's actually moving." Right? That's misleading to investors. So you can't do that. The best thing you can do, and this is like corporate 101 messaging. If you cannot give a clear message at that moment and at that time, and if you can't call a Tom Warren and you can just have a one-on-one with him, which I don't think Microsoft was going to do anyway, because I think the way they structured this is they wanted everybody to get the same news at the same time, right? They don't want Tom Warren being like, "I got my personal interview. This is what he had to say," right? I don't think they wanted that. The point being is that like it was enough to drive them to say, we need to say something next week, but we can't be hasty about it. We have to paint out what we're doing. We have to clearly communicate it, and then we'll let that be.
Yeah. I think the frustration comes in is in the messaging. And once again, we're having an issue with the messaging that we had in the Xbox One era. Multiple times last year, across different podcasts, even the one that goes back to was that Giant? I don't think that was Giant Bomb. I think it was Giant Bomb, where Phil was on there with Matt Booty. He was saying, "Look, we're not a third party publisher." Then at this particular podcast, he said, "Hey, we're one of the biggest publishers, and you are a third party publisher." But it's just the messaging. You say we're not a third party publisher. You say that ZeniMax games will only be on systems that support Game Pass. You talk a lot about exclusives and IPs and stuff like that, and then you turn around and then this whole thing is, and that's why I was asking is this driven from a financial perspective? Is there are they looking at the book? And I know they're looking at the industry as a whole, because if you look at COVID, and when COVID happened, everybody was in the house, and that kind of boost gaming. The numbers went up across the board. And now we're seeing the after effects of COVID, things starting to slow down. The economy is not where it should be. And so the gaming industry as a whole is slowing down in terms of growth. Well, we know that the growth of consoles has slowed down because they haven't been able to break that 200 million barrier. So is that, along with the financial outlook or forecast, Phil saying, "Look, we need to expand our audience, even if it means putting our games on our competitors' platform"?
I think you're right. I think it's that, but I don't think it was Phil necessarily that came up with that thought.
Which one?
I think this was over Phil's head, and I think that's part of what. I think that's part of where the agitation comes from. I don't think it's so much that people were speaking on these rumors or whatever it is, or whatever. I think it was more so because he was put out there earlier than he wanted to, because they had to come and speak on it, and because it's something he didn't want to do. You go back to last year and you listen to Phil, and it's a whole different message than what we're hearing now. And that's part of the problem I mentioned a while ago with the messaging from Microsoft. This right here felt like a forced hand. And the reason why I say I don't think it's necessarily just a matter of hey, we want to sell a whole bunch, because you don't really do that if you're going to put Pentiment over there. You know what I mean? You're not going to really do that if you put I would say Grounded or even Hi-Fi Rush, because those are all niche. Sea of Thieves is fairly sizable. It's because of Steam and things like that.
Yeah, it's a little bit wider.
Yeah, and it also has the MTX and the expansions people can buy into and such. It's the only one of the four that has that. So that makes sense. But the other three are niche. They're not going to really do as much. I just don't think they will, especially Pentiment. I think we all agree there. So
why you don't get Pentiment?
I love Pentiment. I thought it was good.
Yeah, I liked it too. We just know it's not right. It's not going to move units, right?
I do agree though. I do. Sea of Thieves and Grounded has a great opportunity. Has a great opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
And I hope they do well. Listen, I'm not the type of I hope they do terrible. I just don't think they're going to do well. So that's my thing. But shout out to all of them who made these good games and great games. But I don't think our Hoover brothers are about to be up on it like, man, I'm about to play me some Pentiment. I don't know about y'all. I just don't see it. I don't see it happening post. But again, my thing is, I think this was kind of forced above Phil and them. I think this was something
I've heard that.
Yeah, where they want to kind of recoup. They want to get that ROI, man. And I don't think they're waiting around to say, hey, Game Pass will eventually start bringing in those numbers by 2030 that we wanted to get 100 million. I just don't think they see that vision anymore. And like you said, console is so limited. They've reached that apex of what they're going to do, more or less. So that's possibly why they want to try to. And let's be clear, Microsoft would love to have Game Pass on PlayStation and Nintendo.
Oh yeah, they tried.
So and I guess this could be that kind of step into that, like kind of, hey, here's some of these games, you can get this in this service over here. But then there lies the rub, because again, you're not advertising Xbox and such like that on these titles that you're showing over there that you can get over here. I think we'll see what happens with Call of Duty and things like that. That's the bigger measure for me. If in fact Call of Duty actually lands in the service this year, because they still seem vague.
I think it will.
You think so?
I think it will.
I hope so, because it seems like they kind of. To me, I look at the how well Call of Duty sells, and I'm wondering, are they going to want to try to trade one for the other? So I hope they do. I hope they stick to their word, but we'll see what happens, because this could be one of their last applications that they can't put it in too, to be fair.
But one thing I do like about the Game Pass is like Game Pass, when they have big titles, they normally have the early access, like the $30 for the early access. I can imagine them doing something like that with Call of Duty. Yeah, it's free on Game Pass, but here for early access, you can spend $30, $40, however much, and get this and all of the the skins or whatnot, to drive people to spend that additional money. So they there's a lot they could do with Call of Duty to earn.
Yeah, you could make that up that early. And I think it was for Horizon 5 that demonstrated literally the very day of early access that something like, and I apologize, I don't remember the number, but it was like millions of people clearly shelled out that early access money.
Yeah.
That's pure margin. Well.
They got me with Gears. They got me with Gears 4. I'll never do it again, but yeah, I paid that $100 for that.
Hey, I paid that $30 gladly for Starfield.
I did. It got me. I'll pay it.
Me too. I paid that $30.
They got me with Redfall.
They ain't get me with Redfall.
Yeah, they get me with
$30. I spent.
Am I the only one that on the pedal that got
Sorry, man.
Oh man.
Yeah. That bite back edition, I bit back by not buying it.
Shout out to my Viking brothers at the Longhouse Gaming Podcast. Y'all make sure y'all go over there and support Xbox brothers over at the Longhouse Gaming Podcast. What's good? Yo, he said hit the like button, gang. And Willie Style 26 Simmons with the $2. He said post, but Final Fantasy games been on Xbox for a while. Well, they not on there right now. So that's the problem.
Some of them.
He said some of the Final Fantasy games have been on Xbox for a while.
And some of them are now.
Exactly.
The MMO is in beta right now too.
Yeah,
they're online, right? Final Fantasy Online.
Yeah, 14. But that's the problem. We're missing some of the bigger ones, though. We're missing out on the rebirth and remake and 16. Those are things that got to come. Matter of fact,
Not long.
why in the world do we not have the pixel classic ones? Like, stuff like that is stupid. That's Square.
Wait till
That has nothing to
June.
do with Xbox.
I
That's
got-
all on Square.
I got one more
Wait till
question
June.
before we move on to this topic. Because this next topic, we finna cook on this next topic. I already know it, but I got one more question. If the rumors are true and Phil and them chose to slow feed us the transition in terms of making all of Xbox games available on PlayStation and Switch and other platforms, would you rather have them just rip the band-aid off and just tell you everything is going everywhere? Or would you rather them just slow feed you over a period of time? And how would and depending on each choice, what type of impact does that have on the brand? Anybody can go.
Me personally, I'm going to get out the way. It doesn't matter with me on the console aspect because I don't battle with plastic. So
So you don't
certain
care if they
games,
rip the band-aids off and say everything going everywhere, or they slow
I don't
feed you?
care. It is what
Okay.
it is at
Okay.
that point. We gotta come to a realization that when it comes to these businesses, they're gonna go with the best interest of their pockets. Long story short. So with you, it's funny because I was having a conversation with Dre. Prime example of this. He went and sold his Xbox. I'm snitching. Yeah, I don't
What?
care. Take it what
Not
it is.
6,200, Dre.
6,200.
Not the bottom box.
He said, I'm done with these
Dre is the
streets.
super box. He went and sold his Xbox off rumors.
That man said, I can't do it no more. Microsoft and Phil Spencer with the leather jacket had hurt his heart. And he went and sold his system, right?
Oh no, Dre ain't out there like that.
Dre did it. I had the convo with him. We snitching today. So
you snitching on a mellow.
But this is the crazy part about it though, Post. So he said he went to PC. So I'm like, okay, cool. He said, I'm gonna play as the conversation went on, I play my games in Game Pass on Microsoft. So it's like at the end of the day, they still ain't losing you as a customer.
Nope.
Right.
So what's the argument about if you're gonna say, oh, I'm gonna run the PC, and if it's on PC, I'm gonna play it there. They still gain a profit. So when it comes to the plastic,
one for another.
thank
Let
you.
me tell you
So
what
at
the
that
problem
point, I
is, though,
didn't
Mello.
care no more. Hold on. You
Let him
can
get
get
his
your
bars off.
you can get your plastic battle on in a little bit. At the end of the day, like I say, the profit don't matter. So they gonna make their bread. As long as they're making bread, it's guaranteed that I receive my sequels. I don't care. So if they rip the band-aid off and say, yeah, day one is dropping, cool, whatever. I know that my library is going to carry over on whatever platform I go to. Because at the end of the day, a lot of these third-party games that we're playing, like Madden, Call of Duty, they got cross progression and cross save. So it doesn't matter where you go. You're still going to be in their ecosystem. Go ahead, Noah. Do your thing,
Don't
bro.
get your buzz off, Noah. Wow.
The problem isn't the fact that we can play the games any and everywhere, right? For me, the problem is how do you keep this console relevant? You can't play every game that you purchase on Xbox on PC. It's only a select handful of titles. So by putting these games elsewhere, I'm gonna have to side with the narrative here. You really make the console irrelevant to most customers. It's already number three in sales when you look at the big three publishers. Now you're giving people a lesser reason to purchase the console, and you got people selling the console. So now it looks like my digital library that Phil Spencer always talks about, bringing your library with you. OG Xbox games, Xbox 360, Xbox One games. They picture those games coming with you. Well, how am I going to get to play these games if there's no new console? Right, we're going to move forward eventually, right? If there's no new Xbox, and I do go PC or I do go pick up a PlayStation 6, what happens to my old library stuff is sitting on the Series X, which eventually is going to get old. It's going to get old and obsolete, right? So how do I carry these games on to the next generation?
That's a good question. Given
I
that,
don't got no kickback with you on that because at the end of the day, xCloud and you got Game Pass PC, so you can pick either or. Any game that I wanted to play on my Xbox right now via xCloud, it has worked perfectly fine with no issues. And I remind you, it's still in beta right now. So once you get out of beta, ain't no telling how many of the libraries are going to already be transferred over into that ecosystem. And at the end of the day, if you wanna battle plastic, have a ball with it. It ain't for me to tell you that you're wrong. But
shout,
at the end of the day, they're going to make their money from you regardless, because I'm pretty sure you're going to buy something from them,
shout out to
and that's all
Mac
that
City
matters.
Entertainment with the $5. He say, "Rip the band-aid off. The writing is on the wall. I'm a bot. It is what it is. Xbox, Microsoft, Infield ain't got to lie no more." The only issue I have with this is that every eco is not the same. And Xbox is ahead of a PlayStation in a lot of areas, similar to cross play and cross progression. If I don't even think in certain PlayStation games you can start a game on PlayStation and then pick up at that same spot that you left off on PlayStation and continue on PC.
I don't
Yeah,
think
I
so.
am I?
don't know. I don't know.
I don't think you. I think
I
you're
don't
No,
right.
think it
I
is
don't
with
Yeah,
this
think that. I don't
PlayStation.
think that
I
back
don't
end
think
is there
yeah,
yet.
yeah. They
no.
don't have anything
No, you
like that.
can't.
They
Shout
don't
shout
have
out to
anything
Crispy
like that.
Zone.
So in terms of Xbox has that environment, but how much room would PlayStation allow Microsoft to fulfill those things on their system in their in their ecosystem? I think PlayStation would be very hesitant. They already didn't want cross play. They was already trying to guard they
So
fan
true.
base and their install base
Yeah.
with cross play. But I'm gonna let y'all get y'all bars
Mm.
off. Web Dave, Infinite. How y'all feel about this gaming? How y'all feel about this?
Well, Dave, you want to go first?
No, I'll let you go first.
Yeah. So,
Y'all was going that in.
oh no, I ain't no thing. That's just thoughts. I ain't.
That was
I'm.
good.
Hey,
Despite
say the
how.
game, baby.
Yeah.
We ain't no pony and
Yeah.
no
I
box around
ain't
here.
I,
We
not
I
at
we
love
all.
it.
opinion now.
I
I'm
enjoy the
ten
I
debate.
toes
know how
down with
we rock.
Xbox. I'm
Two
10
Ain't
toes
different
down.
different.
Yeah.
perspectives.
No,
Yes or not, nigga, ain't nothing gonna change.
I'm like Mello when it comes to. I'm not even trying to fight the plastic war
Anybody
thing
talking?
anymore.
Anybody?
Uh,
I'm more on Mello's side there when it comes to that, but I do agree with Gamer as far as what's going to happen with game preservation, because I hear you on that, Mello. But like the point of it is, if you got XCloud, and I do like XCloud, and I use it, I got my ROG Ally, etc., phone, whatever, right? That's dope. But that's all digital and coming from streaming. I'm thinking Gamer would want something that's strictly to a device. That's
Yeah, native.
Okay.
yeah, something that's native to it, right? So that's the thing, and it would create an issue if you don't have that platform anymore. But that's the good news. I don't think we're never going to have not going to have a platform. I think Xbox is consistently going to give us new hardware to play on. But for me, and this is why I'm on your point on the Mellows, because like now I'm like at the point where I'm so accepting of what they're going to do. It is what it is. They still have some of the best titles I care for.
mm.
Even if
Mhm.
they go full third party, I'm going to just play that on the PC.
So you don't care if they rip it off or slow feed it. It doesn't matter
I
at
think
this point.
they have to slow feed it because more people in the community would turn than not if they did. And
Just
that's
rip that band-aid off.
if they rip their band-aid off, it's gonna come with a lot of heat. But I think as far as what it is I think they are going to keep some games that are specifically exclusive too. I don't know how long it'll be before they say, okay, well, that can go too. I don't know. But I think they are going to keep some. I'll take him at his word for that for now, because I don't think they can afford to give everything over there without destroying the platform itself, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think they're in that position yet to do that, to make
No,
that move.
I don't think they can either. I
Yeah.
think, yeah.
Are you good? You can go ahead, 30.
Oh, I mean, I was just gonna say, like, my preference is it's the default preference, which I think I think we're just gonna see a slow reveal of whatever the titles may be, because something that we have to consider in this entire conversation is that, I mean, it's with a lot of these large corporate entities. I mean, you get your yearly reviews, you get your financials, you get your budgets for the year. Sometimes the budgets are going to allow for certain things that may or may not happen. So I think I think what we're going to end up seeing is we're gonna see a slow drop. I mean, like maybe the rip off the Band-Aid idea is an interesting thing to speculate about. I just don't think we're ever going to see it, and my preference is that we don't see it anyway, because I think what you're going to see is you're going to see a re-review of their environment every year, and they're just going to snipe at certain titles, and they're going to say it's time to transfer this one because the revenue is dried up on Xbox ecosystem. I'm saying like the entire platform, PC, Xbox, cloud, whatever. Snipe at this one, send it over. Okay, get a studio working on the conversion of this one, send it over. It's not, and I don't think it's ever going to be 100%. I think to the point that was made earlier, Xbox knows there's still a brand that they have to consider and that they have to be. So there always will be something native or at least advantageous of their ecosystem. I can't say forever what it's going to be in the future, but I think you're just going to see a slow drip of this stuff. I mean, that's at least for now. And I don't think you're going to see a Band-Aid maneuver. And I hope they don't do that personally. I think that would be bad for the business. But I mean, I guess we'll see.
Okay, Web Dave. Would you rather them just rip it off and say, look, everything going everywhere, deal with it? Or what they're doing now, which is slow feed the community and just see how things is over time?
Well, I don't think that they're going to go full blast third party, period. So there's no Band-Aid to rip off. I think that there is some more things coming in the future. That's definitely what they're going to look at. Phil said it, case by case basis. They're playing the long game, and a lot of us in the community and a lot of ponies are egging this on too. You got to remember that.
Yeah.
That they're trying to feed the fire because they want everything for themselves. They want Xbox dead because they want it all for themselves. They want it all for, look, I own a PlayStation. I want a Nintendo products. I own, have a PC, ROG Ally. So it's like, to me, I play games. I don't really play the console war thing, but you can tell that that's where they're feeding the fire. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get us to turn on each other and some of us have given up the ghost pretty quick, but who knows? But in the long run, I think that Microsoft is getting themselves in a position to where in the long run they're going to be better suited for the gaming future than any other company, including Nintendo. So we will see what we will see, but we know there's new hardware coming. And from some of the rumors and speculation, which it is just that, all rumors until proven otherwise, that that it's going to be the future will tell a lot. And I think by the end of this year, we'll probably have a better idea of where things are going. And by next year, it'll be pretty much, we'll be able to see what the playing field is now. I mean, Sony has already said, in which a lot of people just absolutely sweep under the bus, that it's like, they, no matter what, that $10 billion stock price drop did hurt, because that hurts investment in the future. And also they're coming out and stating that they don't have any first party games coming until the middle of next year. So those are big things that a lot of people are just trying to, oh, it's not a big deal. They can handle, they can do this, they got third party, this, that. We'll see. In the long run, we'll see who wins the game.
They got some first party, Web Dave. Microsoft's. Yeah.
Where's the drum? Where's the drum hit? Right?
Hey, don't listen.
Nobody else find that funny.
Look. I'm gonna say, don't nobody want to grab that console war flag. I'm gonna grab it. Don't nobody want to fight for that thing. I'm gonna fight for the piece of plastic. Let me tell you something. Either you gonna shit or get off the pot.
Talk to him post.
You feel me? Don't play with my emotions. You feel me? Don't play with my emotions. Either shit or get off the pot. Don't try to slow feed me in anything. And I'm just saying this hypothetically, but I've heard a lot of things. I heard a lot of things in the background about having the option to just rip the Band-Aid off, and them choosing to slow feed the community over a period of time. And I think slow feeding it in some way, you're still going. And I know we're talking about software preservation and whether they're getting in and out of hardware. I'm talking about brand identity. I'm talking about brand. You're going to affect the brand. Whether you rip the band-aids off or slow, but don't slow. Look, just keep it straight up, no chaser. Just tell me what it is. So as a gamer, I can process that information and choose to make the choices I want to make. Now, my Xbox Series X and my PlayStation is still over here. I ain't run out trade my Xbox. I'm homeboy. I'm about to talk to my homeboy. Dre, I'm disappointed in you, brother. I am disappointed. My system is still over here, though. But in terms of a brand identity, it still begs the question right now: what is Xbox? Who is Xbox? Right? Because the message is so convoluted. I don't know who or what you are as a gaming brand. Right? You tell me on the 1 minute you want to cater to your community, and you want Game Pass to kind of to be the plate that you spoil us with just food, with all types of games. I'm using gaming and food. That's not this is crazy. Let me tell you something. You say you want us. Wait, everywhere Game Pass is, that's where you want your content to be, right? And then you flip on the flip side. You say, hey, well, we got these, and which I don't have a problem with it. You have, I think Gaming was saying earlier, you have these smaller titles where you made little investments. They hit their ceiling on the console and PC. We do think there's room for growth. These are not game-changing titles, but it's titles that we can move over to other consoles to make return on our investments. I have no problem with that. But when we start hearing about Gears of War collection, Master Chief collection, when we start hearing about Starfield, right? When we start hearing about even Hellblade 2 and Fable, y'all got to think about this. If they just announced, right, Grounded, Hi-Fi Rush, Sea of Thieves, and Pentiment for Nintendo and PlayStation this past week, that means they had the development kits last year.
Yeah, I mean, they've been working on this stuff for a while. This is not
long time.
Yeah, the developers finished them probably months ago.
True.
Yeah. That means they had the development kits last year, right? They didn't even tell us then. So if they've been having the development kits that long, what other games are there?
No, Post, you got to remember that, like, the Hi-Fi Rush, that was in development long before the purchase.
Yeah.
So they probably started off in development for all until they made the purchase. And same way with some of these other things, they were on the slate and on the board and able to jump right into it because they were already in the works or thought of or in the planning stages.
Starfield allegedly was already in the works.
So was Gears, but they pulled that.
As the PC version first, though. From what they said, from their interview of the guy who was working the game, it was a PC version first.
From John Johannes.
Yeah, he said they started off on a PC. I don't even think it was an Xbox or PlayStation version at that time. So this is all I'm saying is that if you're going to do that, right? Don't try to, slow drip or slow feed me with these small games to try to control. It's like a psyop, basically. You're trying to control the narrative, you're trying to control the output, and you're trying to control and contain the energy because if and when you start reaching these big games, that pot that's boiling, that top gonna get the shaking. It got the shaking when the rumors came out, But I look at it like this: the smaller games, I don't care, right? Sea of Thieves, Grounded needs to be on everything. That's one of them. They represent a game that needs to be across all platforms: PlayStation, Nintendo, whatever. I think it'll do great over there. But when you start talking about the heavy hitters, you know what I'm saying? That's why I have an issue. And I know Gaming earlier said, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I'm saying when he was talking about
Yeah.
He didn't really care about it being a one-way street because they're still getting something in return, and that's investment in business. I agree with that from a business perspective, but from a gaming perspective, oh, we need something from Nintendo and PlayStation. You know what I'm saying?
I'm leaving here with something.
Yeah, I'm leaving here with something. We need something. And don't bring me Helldivers too. Oh no, don't bring me that. We want if you get one of our heavy hitters, we gonna get one of your heavy hitters. But guess what? I know Nintendo and Sony don't operate like that. And
so
see,
I don't know if
ahead.
we've traded anything yet, right? I mean,
No.
right? We're probably not there yet.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying, I'm just talking. I'm just saying hypothetically, if these big Xbox games that I'm hearing that's already in the works to be
Which are rumors.
over. No, this is go beyond just wrong. I'm talking about what I'm hearing behind the scene from people who know the people who know. You know what I'm saying? I ain't going off the rumors that's
till it happens.
Yeah, I'm going off what I'm told from the people that's in the know who know the people that would know if this come to fruition. You know what I'm saying? Then we need some, but I know them two other ecosystems don't operate. And that's what makes me mad, because we got excited for you getting ABK, and then we got to deal with this. Now the narrative for every game that you announce from here to the next 2 or 3 years, the PlayStation community, the Nintendo community, and media will always have a question whether those games are going to the competitor system one day.
Facts.
They were already asking that.
Already asking. Right, and they're already asking that. And where my energy come in is that I want you to compete. You just went over there and brought your competition food. The whole restaurant. You brought the whole restaurant after they told you that they was using Call of Duty to fund their first party games, right? And now you giving them a lifeline after you sat in front of that judge and told that court system that Sony take the 30% that we pay them and use it against us to drive content on our console. You go get in. First party exclusives.
I will say this though. I do agree with Web Dave though. It does make it just a little bit easier to acquire other companies when you can make the argument in court that we're buying developers and studios, but we're still putting a small portion of our games on competing platforms.
If they're trying to get a Japanese publishers, they ain't gonna have to worry about that. They only got 1% market value over there.
Yeah, I'm just talking about the small games, just the small games.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I want to see Microsoft in a place of strength, in a place of confidence, in a place of saying, look, now we got ZeniMax, now we got 8BK, now we're one of the biggest publishers in the industry. Now we for the flex our muscle with hardware, content, in services. Now we fit apply pressure on Sony, because when you was in the Xbox One era, Sony wasn't trying to give you none of their games when all the third party was going to them and one coming to you, and they were outselling you 8-1 on the hardware, and third party games was drying up from JRPGs, fighting games, stop launching on your system to the point where you had the launch killing. Look, they weren't trying to give you no lifeline. They put their foot on your neck even harder, right? And that goes into this next topic, because I don't want this to go too long. Let me pull this up right here. My brother gaming over 30. Once again, let me put this on the screen.
What did I do this time?
We finna talk about this, because let me see here. Now I know we finna cook on this one. Now, Sony report just came out too.
Yeah. Here we go.
Quarter 3.
You want me to go into it?
Go ahead. Set the table so we can cook. Right. Go ahead.
So it's funny that you bring this up now, because there were some things on this I was going to add to the end of your thing. So this is actually a really good break. Before we get into those adders, Sony's report was mixed. I mean, their top line numbers are great. I mean, I want to give full credit to whatever Sony's doing because
When you say top line, what do you mean by that?
so they're just the raw revenues and sales.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Raw revenues and sales. People are buying things on PlayStation. They are playing things in the PlayStation ecosystem, and it's slightly broader than it used to be.
Mm.
I think I actually have it pulled up here on my side too. They had record revenue numbers in Q3, and that includes weird things like the others segment and add-on content was huge for them in Q3. Like they did 349 I think billion yen in like add-on content, which was another company record for them.
Mhm.
So I mean, from the top line perspective, Sony had just an absolutely amazing Q3. People are buying things on PlayStation. They have the groundwork of a very active network of users, right?
Mhm.
And then in fact, I even think that they had like a slight creep up in even their PlayStation Plus revenue because they had some conversion. Even though I think they have less people subscribed, more
Yeah.
people converted to the higher
Tier.
margin tiers,
Yeah.
right? Or the more expensive tiers. So they actually had a kind of little bump there as well too in terms of revenue. But man, I think I get into it on if I remember what I wrote in here.
Mhm.
Sony is getting beat up left and right on operating margin or on their operating income.
Mhm.
They are spending money in a gap perspective. Actually, international uses IFRS, which is a different version of which is just gap, but it's the international version.
Mhm.
They are spending money as fast as they can make it, at least representative of operating income. And even when you give them the credit, even when you twist that dial a little bit and you say, okay, just show me operating income without some of the more what I'll call confusing aspects of GAAP and IFRS, and you say,
Mhm.
okay, show me how much operating income you're bringing in without things like amortization and depreciation and everything. Even
Mhm.
that number is not good. It's not historically good. It's actually historically bad. And
Mm.
one of the things that's just shocking about PlayStation's results right now is that if you look at their revenue, it and I don't want to be too negative about it, but the thing I always say about Sony
No.
is they're
But speak the
making
truth.
shocking amounts of revenue and making very little money from it.
Wow.
And it's I started talking about this a year ago. And a year ago, when I was discussing this with people online, it was like, oh, well, they got Bungie and they have to
Yep.
amortize Bungie. And then as soon
Yep.
as Bungie's paid off, they'll be fine. And then it was like, well, they have all this first party development, which is true. And as soon as
Yeah.
they finish some of this first party development, they'll be fine. I mean, Sony is, and I think the proof is in the pudding with some of the things that are happening in the ecosystem here that are not so they're fine in terms of an organization. Like, don't get me wrong, their financials will never, at least I don't think their GNNS financials would actually dip negative. That's not the plan. That's not in their prediction. That's not in their outlook. But one of their biggest problems is that as the console market begins to kind of stall a little bit, and I think we've seen that you've shown here, right?
Yeah.
They didn't do like a minor adjustment of their PS5 titles. The adjustment down to 21 million units is massive. Like I
See,
think they went from 25 to 21. If someone can
yeah,
keep that
yeah,
remind me of that.
yeah, they
Yes,
did.
you're correct.
And I was told that it's only 4 million. It's small. What's 4 million consoles? But you say it's huge.
It's
So please explain that because you got a lot of PlayStation cats telling me, well, they only missed 4 million. They still made 21 million. It's minor.
Hey, on that subject, right? This is my way of thinking, right? So there's a PS5 Pro rumored to come out this year,
Mhm.
but Sony has already come out and said they don't expect to. Well, let me. I don't remember the correct wording, but exact wording. But they don't expect to sell as many consoles this year. Is
What's
that
wrong with that?
normal? Is that normal not to expect to
Yeah,
sell as much,
I
or
I think
when you
so at
have a
this
new
point.
device coming?
No, I think so at this point it's normal because I think Sony is running into I think what Microsoft and Sony are realizing this at the same time. And I've
Gotcha.
thought about different ways of putting this, but I think I think the best way to put it is both companies about the same time have realized that they're having a difficult time selling consoles to people who don't already have their consoles. So that they're now under that realization. So Sony had to pull down their numbers. Microsoft obviously is being, I think, approximately beat 2-1, right? In terms of console units. I'm going to be super careful about how I describe this, just in terms of console units, because obviously both ecosystems, particularly Microsoft, have how they count active users is a slightly different metric. But what both companies are realizing is they're suddenly coming to the realization that we are selling to the same people who bought our stuff before. And that's kind of a problem, because all publishers, manufacturers and publishers in the video game industry wanted to be further ahead than where they are right now. The pullback from COVID revealed a lot of cracks and weaknesses in the financials of the game industry. And Sony is, I just don't know how to say this. Like, they are a prime example of spending cash right now as fast as you're making it. And I don't think their next year guidance is much better than this year, though we'll see some of it recover a little bit. I mean, it's a really weird situation right now. And it's I think one of the most fascinating situations in gaming right now is Sony's financial results of G and NS right now because of where they're sitting.
Okay, so them dropping their forecast from 25 million to 21, that's a huge drop off, even though it's you're saying like 4 million.
I mean, think about it this way: if you're off by a couple of percent, that means your idea of the market is still relatively good, right? It means your modeling is decent. A 25 to 21 million reduction is a little bit less than a quarter, right? Your modeling is off. Your modeling of who is buying our consoles is off. And with Sony's admittance that next year they don't see them able to kind of overcome that, means that their modeling overshot the mark. Now, and maybe, I don't know, the best word is maybe we don't say it like it's grossly off the mark, but it wasn't insignificantly off the mark.
Was they feeling themselves a little bit too much when they came out with that 25 million?
I don't know. It's really hard to say what Sony saw in their modeling. They saw something that didn't pan out, and
so investors is like, if y'all are this far off, that questioned their investment into Sony or PlayStation, correct? Because we did see that them losing 10 billion. I think that was market value.
Yeah, they got hit pretty hard that day. I don't remember what the exact number was, but they got hit pretty hard that
10
day.
Billion.
Yeah, it was. And a part of it's too because the next year outlook, at least right now, maybe some things turn the knobs a little bit, but their next year outlook too is admittedly probably about in the same place as this year. So, and I don't want to look too far out in the future. That can change. I'm just saying, investors were not happy with that because once they had that miss, remember, this is a cascading miss. When you're PlayStation and you're not as wide a platform as some of their primary competitor, a console miss, it reduces your denominator, right? You now have less places to drive revenue, so that for every console miss that you have less people in the ecosystem. You have less consoles active in the ecosystem. That's less chances for a sale. That's less chances for add-on content. That's fewer chances to attach hardware or extra hardware, like the PS tablet, whatever the heck that thing is, and the PSVR 2, right? That's the more you reduce that base, the fewer times you have to attach added revenue. So it has a cascading effect.
Yeah, buddy. That leads me to the results of all this. I know Hiroki Tataki, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, did a Q&A.
Yeah.
And he spoke about expanding PlayStation first party titles to PC, mobile, and other platforms, right?
Yeah,
And and when he said that, the media and the PlayStation community instantly said, well, he's not talking about Xbox or Nintendo Switch. He's talking about mobile. And it reminded me around the time where Phil a couple years ago when he first started talking about putting Xbox games everywhere, cloud, mobile, and all that in the media and the PlayStation community, assuming that he was talking about the PlayStation and the Switch. But now with the CFO and COO of Sony coming out saying the same thing, people, I think someone even went in and they was doing a live. That was VGC was doing a live translation,
right.
and they said seemingly meaning that they assumed he was excluding Xbox and Nintendo Switch. And this question is for the panel. Given what gaming just broke down in terms of their profit, low operating income, low profits, spending money coming in but going right out the door, is PlayStation, we know they like to hide their hand, are they going down the same route as Microsoft in terms of spreading their first party games to Xbox and Switch?
Looks like they're going third party, Post.
Say it again. Let's cook, man.
Listen,
go ahead, brother.
Totoki, Hiroki Totoki Okie Dokie, when he did all of that, it softened the blow for Xbox more than anything, actually. He made it light work for Xbox, so they should be thanking him. A lot of our Hoove brothers were so confident that this was only a Microsoft issue, but to Game Over 30, like he pointed out, Sony got all that with the profits, but the profits didn't add up. So they're looking at ways that they're going to have to bring in money too. So I wouldn't be surprised if the landscape of gaming has changed so much that Sony is going to start having to put some of those first party titles over here on Xbox too. So yeah, this is not just an Xbox issue. This is a gaming issue now. It's a gaming industry issue. The only ones that seems inoculated and safe is Nintendo, and that's because they have their own little situation. They're not beholden to third party games and such like Microsoft and Sony are. They run by they're fueled by nostalgia, and I don't know, good games.
Well, let me give you. I won't distract you guys with this, but one of the secret sauce of Nintendo is they basically don't hire anybody. They have no cost. They have no cost comparatively when you look at that when you compare them against their industry with their industry comparables. Like Nintendo, people get hired at Nintendo and they work there for like 1,000 years, right? And they don't hire beyond the employees that they have. And when Nintendo does hire people, it's a big deal. That's very different financial setup than what some of the more traditional setups are. When I say traditional, I mean like your big tech companies, like your Microsofts and your Sonys. I mean, when they want to hire, they ramp up. They hire. Nintendo does not do that.
Well, that's good knowledge. And I guess that they also keep their costs down too for when it comes to development of the game.
And I just realized that you rarely, even from an acquisition standpoint, but you rarely see Nintendo. You rarely hear about them hiring or acquiring anything.
It's rare when they do.
Wow. I just realized that. Go ahead, finish number.
Yeah, and so I think that because of the landscape changing, a lot of people got jumped the gun and was like, oh, Xbox, doom and gloom. But then Hiroki the hero stepped in. He stepped up to the plate and told him it's not just them. I too want money. So Sony has to go that way too. Microsoft is flush. Let's be clear. And I'm sure you can agree, Game Over 30. Like they of course their goal is to make more money,
right?
And they're not doing this as a charity. But if we had to worry about anybody as far as finances and who would have to do that first, it would be Sony before Microsoft.
Yeah, Microsoft has bigger coffers to dig into. They can
Mhm.
put more. They can put more at risk. It's the whole reason, like things like Game Pass and stuff could come to the table at first, right? Because they could spend on it for a few months or for a year, and then have the returns come in. Sony doesn't have as much flexibility there.
Exactly. And I think that's what it comes down to. So to Web Dave's point, because he mentioned this a while ago, he said that, 10, 20 years down the line, stuff like that, something that's further out beside us looking kind of 3 to 6 months out. Things are going to play out in a way that's probably much more favorable, where Microsoft ends up becoming number one in some way. And I can believe that because of things like this. And I don't think Sony, unless they make some drastic changes, which, and it's possibly going to be third party ish, where they bring some of their titles over, because Sony typically follows Microsoft's blueprint. I think we can all largely agree. Microsoft typically sets the stage. Sony sits back and waits, and they'll say, okay, I'll take that plan. I'll do this thing. I'll change this because it backfired on Xbox, et cetera, et cetera. So I think if Microsoft makes this work and it is beneficial to them, we can definitely see Sony doing the same. So, hey, to our Hoover brothers, y'all in the same boat as us. You might want to get a PC.
Shout out to Derek Jameson with the $5. Can you trust what these guys say? Remember when Phil said games wouldn't go to PC, and then afterwards PC will get some exclusive, and Xbox will get some. When I know what you're talking about when he said that it'll be a two-way street with Xbox games going to PC and PC games going to Xbox. I think that there's some PC games that have came to Xbox as well. Max City Entertainment with the $10. No matter what happens, I'm riding with all my bots. Period. Catch me in the chat. What we built it only we can destroy. Brace for the future. It's gonna be amazing ride, even though we won't enjoy the drive. Max City saying he 10 toes down, he ran until the wheels fall off. Web Dave, what you think about Sony being in a vulnerable position right now financially, and the CFO and the CEO, he the bank counter. He don't care about console war. He care about that money, that profit. Is Sony in a position where they have to put their games on Xbox and Nintendo as well as cloud and other platforms?
I mean, Sony is clearly in trouble now. Big trouble, little trouble, who knows? But there's a reason why they came out and kind of set the groundwork, and why they didn't just drop another person in to replace Jim. The guy that's in charge, he is one of the financial guys, so he knows where the money needs to come from and what they need to do, and he's probably going to be opening up things. It's going to be a balance, just like it is with Microsoft, as far as you want to keep some exclusives because you want to, because they need to go with the brand. Nintendo's always going to have Mario, Zelda, Metroid, those kind of games are always going to be on there. But as far as the future for them too could be that, but they're not in dire straits. And I believe that some of the things that they're working with now with Microsoft, having some of the games coming over, they've got a good relationship, meaning Nintendo, with Microsoft, and for PlayStation, they pretty much try to do everything they can, throw all the monkey wrenches in, as it were, to try and stop the deal. Because one thing Jim did get right is that when Microsoft owns Call of Duty, and they do own Call of Duty, PlayStation's going to be in a different field than they were before. It's the future of Microsoft, as far as being in third place, is going to start changing after this year's Call of Duty comes to Game Pass. And I really think that it's going to be the future going forward, and they're going to market it because they're going to have the marketing rights to market it any way they see fit, to make sure it's clear that, it's available on PlayStation, but if you get it on Game Pass, you can play it here, or our console, or your tablet, or your TV, or wherever, and you don't have to buy the copy. You can just play it. Oh, and plus, Game Pass also has these 400 other games.
Mm-hmm.
Come aboard, join our ecosystem. Get into it. Yeah, and then the other thing we talked about earlier was
Mm-hmm.
your back catalog. One thing that Phil even said it just recently, that games you already purchased, say like I have Elden Ring digitally on my Xbox, they're going to make that to where, and hopefully by the end of the year, where you'll be able to play your own game through the
He did
cloud,
say that.
and that is important.
He
And
did
like
say
I said,
that.
it's part of the future that a lot of people just aren't picking up on yet. That as it starts to happen, trust me, it's game on.
Now, Web Dave, I am 100% on you with the marketing. Call it. They need to let look. We own Call of Duty now.
Yep.
2 is going to be in Game Pass. 3, Xbox is the definitive place to play, even though parity is there.
Yep.
Your definitive place to play it should be on our console via Game Pass.
Where's your value? Where's the best value for you as a consumer, especially during hard times? Yep.
Exactly, because you not only get access to that, but you get access to every other Call of Duty that was made previously, right?
And Starfield, Indiana Jones, and
4K,
and Blade,
frames
a whole
per
bunch of other
second,
stuff coming.
Yeah. So I do agree, and that's one of my sticklers with them in terms of how they market Game Pass. I don't think they do a good enough job. I think it's a lot of people that still don't know about Game Pass.
I think it's going to change though.
Yeah, and I hope so. I am with you on that. Mello and Noah, way out there with the CFO and COO of Sony, pretty much going out saying, "Look, we need to spread our titles to other platforms, including Xbox and Nintendo Switch." Are they there? I don't think they
got acquired by Sony, I think.
Quickly in the background. They're not allowed to talk about it anymore.
Yeah. I don't think Noah muted, and I don't even think Mello is in here anymore. Okay, well, I'll give my perspective on why they're muted. When I first saw this, and I was given the quote from the transcript, he said, "and other platforms," and I think the first quote they were saying it was like PC. And so I instantly went on Twitter to kind of troll the PlayStation community and say, PlayStation going third party. And everybody was like, well, he said like PC. He ain't said that. Yeah, I'm giving the same energy y'all gave to Phil years ago with the Play Anywhere. And when he was talking about cloud and movie games everywhere, you guys twisted his word and say he was talking about PlayStation and Switch. So now I'm doing the same thing with the CFO and the COO. I've said recently that while all the attention has been put on Xbox, in terms of the PlayStation community, I say, you all don't even know what type of leader you all have. Y'all don't know his mindset. Y'all don't know how he feel about gaming or anything like that, right? Y'all don't know. But everything was focused on the Xbox. And now you see what type of mindset he in. He don't care about the console war. He don't care about none of that. I think I got this this screenshot from gaming. It says the question was, it has been 4 months since Mr. Tataki assumed the position of SIE's Sony Interactive Entertainment chairman. What observations have you made in that time? He says, through my meetings with the management team and visits to the studios, I have the impression that everyone has a solid understanding of what optimization means when it comes to their individual fields of responsibility. However, they don't necessarily understand how their respective efforts tie into the overall growth and sustainable profit generation and higher margins. I believe that is an issue for the organization. By providing everyone involved with highly transparent descriptions of the company and industry conditions, as well as analyst views, I would like to encourage them to come to their own realization. This will get everyone in the business onto the same page. then I would like them to consider what we need to do to work towards our major objectives. Like when I hear this, I'll read the segment. He said, please give us an update on Bungie and what initiatives you are planning for fiscal year 2024. I visited Bungie Studios and they had meetings with them and had meetings with the management. And I saw that the employees working at the studio were highly motivated, showing great creativity as well as an impressive knowledge of live services. However, I also felt there was room for improvement from a business perspective with regards to areas such as the use of business expenses and assuming accountability for development timelines.
Cracking the whip.
Continue the dialogue and come up with some of the good solutions. It was another paragraph where he talked about Sony first.
Yeah, right. It's a different one, but this was
Yeah.
the one about the studios. But
Yeah.
I picked this one out because it was. I mean, he's being corporate about it. But
Yeah.
it's
You can read between the
fairly-
lines.
yeah, you can read between the lines here. Exactly. Like he's being kind of, I don't want to say like brutal, but it's like he's like they're not organizations that are thinking about our margins. They're basically building games and spending money, building games, spending money, building games, spending money.
Yep. Exactly what I got from it. And they have no concept of profit margins or anything like that. They just in there, well, we got money coming in, we just spending. Ain't nobody trying to control budgets or anything. And I think that's why Spider-Man got so out of hand, being $300 million. And I look at that during the leaks. The PlayStation producers came in the middle of Spider-Man development, not towards the end, the middle, and told them and said, look, you guys are not going to hit y'all mark. So you got to start cutting out content. Right? So the Spider-Man 2 that released, it wasn't even a full game because they had to cut out a lot of content. But I look at that and say, well, what if they wouldn't have came in at the middle of development and then stopped them and told them to cut content? Spider-Man 2 probably would have been $400 million.
The thing with this is very, I can give you a little flavor from the project management perspective. What happens is, and it's not just Sony, this happens at EA, this happens at Take-Two, it happens everywhere. You get these cycles where a company is successful and the project management teams and the organizations and the business units are given more money. They're given a little bit looser control of their own destiny and financials, and the pendulum swings the whole way, right? The pendulum swings to just, keep adding content, keep producing, don't worry about the dates right now. Let's keep throwing things in there. And that has a tendency to swing out of bounds, right? You get so far in one direction in the project management aspect that, and this there are other stories in the games industry and other industries that are just like this. Somebody has to come in and say, okay, you've been given years of freedom we've been writing you big fat checks for years to just pretty much make what you want to make. And we're also, costs are up, salaries are up, healthcare is up. Like we are no longer able to write infinite cash for this type of work. So then the pendulum starts swinging the other way. This is a very, very classic challenge in not just corporate America, but corporate the world. Right. It's that whole pendulum. It's that financial pendulum that swings back and forth, particularly when you come to successful companies like Sony G&NS. That division has been very successful, and they've been successful so long, they've basically been given blank checks to do whatever they want. And suddenly now Sony's spinning and going, oh, crap. We just realized we're spending all the money we make. And now the pendulum has to swing back the other direction.
Yeah. And when I read that, I kind of laughed because Microsoft get the flack for not knowing how to manage, for being bad managers and not knowing how to manage their studios, or their studios not knowing how to manage things. And now you got the CFO that's coming out that's like, look, that's like you said, that's being corporate but being brutal, saying, look, you guys are great at what you do. You're great at your job. But when it comes to the business, We got some work to do there, right? And so I'm wondering, right, if what he went and seen across these studios in terms of how the spending has been getting out of hand, because he has to come in and clean things up and rein things in. Is that the reason why we're not going to get a big first party PlayStation exclusive this year? Is that the reason why he's now saying, look, we have to reach out and start thinking about putting our first party content on other platforms, including our competitors with the Xbox and Switch? I know Phil stated that, look, the console market is not growing. And if the console market is not growing, then it's going to have it's going to be a trickle down effect on the industry at some point, not growing as well. And we have to find a way to expand that. I said a couple of years, well, not a couple of years, more than like about 5 or 6 years ago, I was having a debate with some PlayStation guys. And I told them, I said, the PlayStation 2 sold over 150 million consoles, right? No other hardware has hit that number since. Not even PlayStation. And so I said back then that they were selling to the same people, because as a company, if you hit 150 million sold, then your next metric in terms of next mark you want to hit, you want to do 160, 170, maybe even 200 million.
Yeah.
Right. But if you're staying within, in the PlayStation 4 only did like 118, 100, so you still within that same, you're still selling to the same people. And if you're doing that, you're not growing in a market where there's over 3 billion gamers. Right? So there's gonna have to be change, and it's gonna be change that a lot of people is not gonna like, and that's including Sony putting their games day and date on PC, and putting some of their games on Xbox and PlayStation. We already seen that they're opening up the PSVR 2 to PC now, which they should have done prior to even releasing the thing.
I called that day one. I said there was a massive mistake for Sony to ignore the PC market with PSVR 2.
Massive.
Who, and I love VR. Like there are some VR games that I play regularly. I'm probably one of the few people out there who actually uses my VR headset regularly. And for Sony to ignore the PC market there was absolutely like just mind-boggling to me, because you cannot tell me that the PC enthusiast or the VR enthusiast market is on PlayStation. It's not. It's not. On PC.
Yeah. Yes. And I think we talked about that when they announced it and found out that it was being exclusive to PS5. I thought that was a miss, in the fact that it wasn't backwards compatible, and there's so many things, and hopefully they do it better. At some point, they can figure out a way to make it backwards compatible and not force devs to have to rebuild old versions for the new version. But I think opening it up to the PC market will do it well, because it's been dead. Nobody is talking about the PSVR 2. So hopefully that works out. Let me see here. Mello, you there? Nah, he's not there. Infinite, you there?
He playing VR on PC.
Right.
Yeah, but I think we're moving towards a future where the landscape will force both Microsoft, two pillars in this industry, to share the wealth amongst each other. And I know a lot of people saying right now, they said, well, Sony would never do that. They don't have to do that. They are the market leader. Well, y'all told us that when y'all said they didn't have to put their games on PC. They'll never put their games on PC. Look how that turned out. Now their games are coming out day and day. Well, now you're saying, well, it's only games as a service games. Yeah, okay. Well, that ain't what the CFO and the COO are saying. Yeah, it's going to happen. Especially when your profit margins are that low, your operating income is, and I think they've been dealing with that operating income issue since like 2018, 2019, right, Gaming?
Well, they had really during the games industry ramp up of like 17, 18, and 19, they had good profit margins. Then 20, 21, and 22 hit, and they started like, COVID blew them up. But
Mhm.
where they're at now is, and I apologize, I don't have my own tweet in front of me to reference, but they are at their lowest operating income and operating income before depreciation and amortization
Mhm.
in, I think it's like 8 years. It's since that initial games industry ramp up of 2017. They're at their lowest operating income of that entire segment. Now, in the
Wow.
early 2010s, like 11, 12, 13, 14, they were during I think it was like, was that the PS3 era? Yeah,
Mhm.
that was right. That was kind of the tail end of the PS3 era. Yeah, their operating income wasn't great. It was actually really bad. But that's not the era we're talking about anymore. We're in the modern era of games. Essentially started in 2016 and 2017. That
Mhm.
moving forward has been essentially the measuring stick. And where Sony is in terms of their current operating income is well below the metrics of their best years, which was like 2017, 2018.
Yeah. So, yeah, so after he just said that, I'm gonna say this. Hey, Web Dave.
Mm-hmm.
Remember they
Yes,
told
sir.
us that Xbox need PlayStation more than PlayStation need Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It don't sound like that.
Yeah, it sounds a little backwards, doesn't it?
That sounds bad. And look at this. MLB The Show 23 has 6 times the players on Xbox than first party PS5.
Hilarious.
Yep. Then the numbers, man. Truth, it doesn't lie.
What's funny
And
is they always talk about what we don't buy and what we don't play, and yet we're treating your exclusive like it's ours while you don't touch it.
And spending more money. They make more money off of the people buying stuff. Even though it's in Game Pass, they still make more money of people buying the extras than they do from PlayStation. Incredible.
and that's we're talking about the PS5 and the PS4.
Mm-hmm.
The Xbox by itself.
It's good, isn't it? It's good to be the king.
Look, man, look. We've been at this for a while. I don't want to keep you all. Y'all know I can go. But, yeah,
You
but look,
absolutely can.
you know what? I'm gonna be on Web Dave show tomorrow. So you guys make sure you're tuning into that. Gaming, thank you so much. I'm gonna have to get you back on because we
You're
got
very
a lot
welcome.
more to talk about. We got a lot more
No,
to talk
I had
about.
a great time, and I really appreciate you having me on. Thanks for having me here, and I hope next time we do this, I'm sure there'll be tons of new developments to
New
discuss.
development. Yes,
That's right.
yes. Yeah, but thank you for putting them ponies in place because they was delusional for a minute. They still delusional. They throw them.
They're still telling me Microsoft lost 440 million in that quarter.
That's why I brought that up. I'm like, what? Nah, that ain't what you think it is. They constantly throw. Well, we selling more hardware than y'all, and look at the revenue they made. But you only made 600 million off 10 billion. Why
Do you remember it was Aladdin where the genie's like his like massive like power in this itty bitty tiny thing, right? It's like massive revenues in this itty bitty tiny operating income.
Yeah, but that was an eye opener. The way you broke down it to say they're as quick as money coming in, they're spending it. And I think that's why the CFO and COO of Sony had to step in.
Yeah.
And I think he was chose for that reason to kind of hone things in and get all them studios on the same page in terms of the business aspect of it and the financial aspect of it. Because they over there spending with no cap. And it's been uncontrollable, and it's been like that for years. And now he got to come in and put a cap on that because if they continue, they're gonna spend themselves out of the business.
Very, very traditional problem, in fact.
All right. So before we go, I don't want to thank Gaming Over 30. I want to thank Web Dave. I want to thank my Chicago brother, Infinite Umbra, who I'm gonna have to have back on here. Again, we just gonna have to work throughout this year as news come out. But I do want to get y'all a chance to promote your platforms, where they can find you at on social media and things like that. Go ahead, Gaming.
Oh yeah, mine's pretty simple. My main platform is still X/Twitter. You can find me at Game Over 30, exactly the way that it sounds. And I also have links to my personal like long form writings that I've done on the games industry business there, as well as a very, very, very small, tiny, quick review podcast that I do. It's just a personal thing where I have 3-minute podcasts. I keep the game review to 3 minutes, 3 minutes only. If it goes over that, I've already gone on too long. So you can check me out at Game Over 30 on X/Twitter, and you can kind of go from there.
All right, Web Dave.
Yo. First of all, thank you so much for having me on, man. I loved being here. I always love being on a podcast with Infinite Umbra. He is amazing. Yeah. And Game Over 30 is great to meet you. I think you're awesome, and hopefully we'll get you on our show sometime, because you had definitely some good insight. I loved it. I absolutely love it.
Oh,
and tomorrow night we're going to be with Post Up's going to be on, along with Joey from We Be Green is going to be on tomorrow night with me and Retri for Gamers Council at 6 p.m. tomorrow night. I'll drop that in the chat there too. But yeah, it's such a great topic, such a great time, and it's really good to be able to get in and be able to talk to people like-minded. That we all love gaming, and that's the main catalyst for it. So again, Post Up, thank you so much for having me on.
No problem. Always a pleasure, man. You supported us, so we definitely got to support. It's about supporting each other and helping each other build and grow their content and grow their listeners and stuff like that. And that's why I wanted you to come over here, and so the people in the chat here can trickle over to your podcast and like and subscribe and then view, and that's how we do. Infinite, what's good, my Chi-Town brother? What's going on, man?
Chi-Town, stand up.
What's going on, man? Let me know where they can find you at.
You guys can find me on Twitter, X Infinite Umbra or Umbra Infinite. You'll find me either way. I want to give a shout out to the chat for being here, holding us all down. Of course, Post as our gracious and often hilarious preaching host. Thank you very much for having me, brother. It's an honor to be here with you. And of course, with Web Dave, my brother, as well. You've been holding it down. It's always a pleasure to talk with you. We sometimes meet up on Booms if I don't come by your guys' podcast, and their podcast is great, by the way. But Gamers Council on Sundays,
thank you.
Go by. And Game Over 30 is a pleasure to meet you too as well.
Yeah, same.
I had just liked one of your tweets a second ago, by the way. I saw that. But yeah, absolutely. Hell, I got to try to get you on over to one of these podcasts I'm on too. So
yeah, he's very knowledgeable. That's why I wanted to get him on for that very reason. So you all can start reaching out because man, he's very knowledgeable.
I see. So I can see that. Like I can see you working well with I can see K Asante and
yep. I was thinking about that too. Yep.
Yeah, I'll put it in
and
words.
If they listening, believe me, if they listen, they gonna reach out.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, but as far as my podcasts on Tuesdays with Boom, Xbox Factor, you'll find me there with Steel Rain and Boom, and possibly a guest here and there every now and then. That's at Tuesdays at 12 o'clock Eastern. Thursdays, my show, The Fix, that is at 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock here, of course, for us in Chicago, 7 o'clock Eastern for the Infinite podcast on Fridays. Myself, Risky for the Biscuit, that Blue Number, and Jedi Knight Peter. Typically, we got a rotation of guests right now. So as far as my show, here's the link for it in the chat. If you guys have not subscribed or come by to give us a listen, it's hosted by myself and co-host Daniel McG. So please come by, subscribe to us, and give us a listen sometime on Thursdays. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you all so much for showing up. We had a great conversation. There's so much other stuff I wanted to talk about, but sometimes I get so in tune to stuff I just be forgetting about the other stuff I was supposed to ask. But I'm gonna definitely get you guys back on as news break out throughout the year. I have their Twitter handles in the descriptions, as well as Web Dave. I'm messing up his name. Web
It's all right.
Dave and Infinite Umbra, links to their YouTube channel is in the descriptions as well. I didn't know Gaming Over 30. I didn't know if you had a YouTube channel or not. I tried to search for it, but I
Not
didn't.
really official. So yeah.
Didn't find it. So, but I did put your Twitter handle down there. Make sure you all go over there, subscribe to their channel, look at their content. Web Dave has some of the most incredible interviews with some of the biggest content creators in the industry. All your big content creators you can find over on his channel, and not just about gaming. We're talking about getting into their life outside of gaming. How did they find their way into gaming and being the content creators? He's asking questions like that. He's finding out information that you want to know. Support his channel. My brother, Infinite Umbra, The Fix, real cool, laid back channel, real cool, laid back podcast, very informal, great discussions, great information and perspective on gaming. Make sure y'all subscribe to them, support them, like them, but go over there and watch the content, right? Don't just hit the subscribe button. Watch the content so you can know what you're subscribing to, right? And we're just trying to support everybody. So Gaming Over 30, Web Dave, Infinite Umbra, we're about to get out of here. I do play music at the end. You guys do not have to stick around. You guys can pop out. I will hit you all up on the X platform. But make sure y'all tune in tomorrow. We're gonna be on Web Dave channel, and I'm gonna be cooking. I didn't preach today. That's because I wanted to learn something today in terms of the financial aspect of the industry and things like that. And I think we all gained something today. So
yeah, we did.
We out of here. Y'all have a great, let me see here. Y'all have a great time, and we gone.
It's been crazy, man. But you gotta go through something to get to something, you know? Whatever that something is, yeah, we back locked in. Let's go. Got it out the mud with the cards that was dealt. Cause I fear wasted life more than I fear death, yeah. That's why I never worry about a flight plan. Cause when you up, you never ask when the flight land. Southside and shy, still alive, so I beat the odds. Tempted by the devil, but made my peace with God. We beat that odd. The nights was cold, it was sheet to scar. That sleep was hard. Depression had me locked and see the bars. Faith and prayer helped me see the mark. Couple guys I had to take off on them. Shit's different when they trying to pull a take off on you. Rest in peace. Set the table for niggas and set my plate aside. So when you see me feeling mass, know that it's justified. When niggas get the buck and I get the pesticide. Jungle full of gorillas, who let the pest inside? No object formed against me shall be weaponized. That's why the guys pull up like an exercise and press the bitch when they woofing from the sidelines.
Yeah. It's a long day now. Trying to find my way out. Life is such a precious thing.
So precious.
Hoping that she stay there.
Know what though?
Yeah. And we find a way. And we find a way. And we find a way.
Come to money, play my part, he ain't talking acting. That's right. AI with the rock, we just talking practice. Teacher said I'd be dead by 21, never happened. Hid the message in the music, go and play it backwards. Found a way out with these words, that's another access. Nothing showing life but death, living paying taxes. He needed money, went and got it, but I had to spend it. Problems got solutions with another, every other minute. Pray my kids had kids, that's another lineage. And my opinions never matter, so I don't defend it. Faithful mustard seed got me feeling, so I'm never timid. Trying to give them God's plan, but they never listen. To tee you off the road you on, that's the devil's mission. My pie warm, I'm in hell's kitchen. Left palms itching, fish scale pitching. Left me in the cell for dead like a living organism. Jail wasn't bad as I thought, just a pause existence. Family and friends on point, so they did more than visit. Humiliation humbled this one, patient put in my position. Failure my opposition, lower self my competition. Beating on that door mark, stay out to it, pay out. Me and mine's on that mission, and we trying to find a way out.
Yeah, trapped in the void, showing about negative noise. Think how they frowned on you. You calling your boys, they hit you and all. That's how they get down on you. When she hit the fan and you need a handheld, they playing around on you. Stand poised, know that you have a voice. Know that you have a choice to change the outcome, like Malcolm, then outcomes that Mountain. Who wanna see you outdone? I get it. I'm a different breed from a different creed, a different player in a different league. Who won't give up that quickly? So I'm with it. Just to get back from the pushback for the voiceless who couldn't push back.
Been a long day now, trying to find a way out. Life is such a precious thing,
so precious.
hoping that you stay there.
You know what though?